In the DC world, I start with Ultraman. While this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyright or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter Apollo. I see I'm too milky. Earth no doubts. As Donna finished speaking, a sound immediately appeared beside Apollo's ear. A more surprising scene appeared. He saw that the light power he released slowly disappeared. No, it didn't disappear, but was absorbed by someone. Thinking of this, Apollo was so angry that his teeth itched and he cursed, "Oz, you're lied to me. Can a guy who can absorb the light power be a cripple who can't even tie a chicken?" Apollo is not stupid. Seeing this scene, he felt bad. I'm afraid that the light power he just used was just a big gift to the other party. Suddenly, countless white mist appeared in front of Apollo, and in the white mist, a figure slowly appeared. The black hair fluttered slightly, the red eyes were as warm as jade, the frameless glasses added 3 points of calmness to him, the three-dimensional facial features were very handsome, and there was a sharp spirit between his eyebrows. The height of 1.97 meters and the physique from years of exercise made him look very good no matter what clothes he wore. Wearing a black windbreaker and a blue shirt, with the tie on his chest dancing slightly, Jello, who had accumulated strength for 3 years, stretched out his hand, pointed at Apollo, and said, "Is this the god of light, Apollo?" Seeing is believing. The mockery was almost thrown on Apollo's face, but Apollo, who knew the power of the mortal in front of him, did not dare to act rashly. This mortal in front of him probably never lost his power, Apollo guessed so. But why did he do this? Was he deliberately deceiving them? Before Apollo could figure out Jello's idea, Jello said first, "Donna, don't play with her. It's hard to find an opponent to fight, but since Jello said so, there's no need for me to fight with you." Hearing this, Donna turned the long sword in her hand, and the dark power appeared on the sword body. A Z-shaped sword mark appeared in the air, and Ares's power of discord collapsed. Then, Donna moved her feet, and in the blink of an eye she came to Jello's side and stood side by side with Jello. Apollo's light power is not ordinary. His light power can charge Kryptonians. In the original timeline, the arrogant Apollo found Superman and used his light power to attack Superman. The result was that Superman was fine, and Apollo was beaten up by Superman who came to his senses. Since Kryptonians can do it, so can Zero. The light power released by Apollo just now is absorbed by Zero and stored in his cells for emergency use. Do you still want to fight, Apollo? Zero adjusted his tie with his left hand and challenged the old god in front of him. Do you want to run away or fight with my dignity? Mortal, don't be so arrogant. Apollo bit his back teeth and said viciously, "If it was in the mythological era, you would be dead now. So, you want to fight?" Zero tilted his head, and his red eyes revealed a hint of fighting spirit. After experiencing the battle of evil eternity, Zero has not made a move for 3 years. In these 3 years, Zero condensed a new Ultraman body. Light, fighting, superpowers, each item was adjusted and modified, and the output method was more effective. In addition, Zero also had gifts brought by Noah, including a divine artifact and the light from the earth and the ocean. After obtaining the light of the earth and the ocean from the DC Universe Earth, Zero realized where he made the gay armor and the Aguru armor. At the time, Zero lacked the most critical material, the light of the earth, which delayed the completion of the gay armor and the Aguru armor. After obtaining the light of the earth and the light of the ocean, Zero successfully made the gay armor and the Aguru armor in these 3 years. In addition, the Nexus armor and the Max armor were also completed in these 3 years. Except for the last Zero, Zero has completed all the UA series armors. Then let me see how strong the Star Crusher was back then. The arrogant Apollo shouted, unwilling to be inferior to the mortal, he condensed the power of light and charged towards Zero. Seeing this, a bracelet appeared on Jello's left wrist, and a cone-shaped object was held in his right hand. The next moment, red and blue lights bloomed at the same time, and a giant armor that had never appeared before appeared on Jello's body, which was even more dazzling than Apollo's light. It was just that the light was not as bright as the other party, but this matter could not force Apollo to retreat. He clenched his fists, gathered the strongest light power since the mythological era, and blasted at Jello, while Jello, who was covered with heavy armor on both wrists, also punched. Bang! The two fists collided, and the visible milky white shockwave spread out from the two of them as the center. The surrounding trees were all broken, and even the wooden house seemed to be about to be overturned. Whoosh! After a moment, a figure flew backwards. Is this the god of light among the 12 gods of Olympus? Jello's voice came out through the helmet, with a unique metallic texture. In terms of size, the gay armor even exceeded the old version of Jack armor, and the height reached 5 meters, and the weight was far better than other armor. The gay armor chosen was not the V2 type used for conventional combat, but the gay armor Supreme type combined with the Aguru armor. Even among Zero's current armors, the gay armor Supreme type has one of the strongest output power. The armed module of the gay armor Supreme type Earth Holy Fist has unimaginable power. Apollo, who flew backwards in the distance, barely climbed up. He looked at the supreme gay armor made of multiple colors, wiped the divine blood from the corner of his mouth, and said, "Don't be so arrogant, mortal." "Can you say it in another way, Apollo?" Zero said disdainfully. He was taller than Apollo, and after wearing the supreme gay armor, he was in a state of looking down on Apollo. At this time, Zero suddenly remembered what Ultraman Gay Supreme type did when he first appeared. Zero's handsome face under the helmet smiled slightly, and took a confident step towards Apollo. With every step Jello took, Apollo could feel that he was getting heavier. When Jello walked in front of him, Apollo saw Jello as an insurmountable mountain. In this situation, Apollo struggled to use his divine power to defend himself, but in front of Jello, this little power could be ignored. Jello punched out, smashing Apollo's defensor. Then, in Apollo's puzzled eyes, Jello lifted Apollo up and threw him to the ground. Boom! The whole forest was shocked, and this was just the beginning. But for just a moment, Apollo felt that his grandmother was waving at him, and in reality, Apollo's grandmother was also greeting him warmly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Zim punched Apollo's head. Earth North Alps Mountains. Apollo was thrown to the ground by Zero just as he was about to stand up, but Zero grabbed his clothes and the back of his neck and threw him to the ground. Boom! With a loud bang, Apollo flew backwards again, and after landing on the ground 100 meters away, he stood up again tremblingly. Zero also appeared in front of Apollo like a shadow, and the earth fist that was thicker than Apollo's waist strangled Apollo's shoulders. Zero's legs were heavily stacked into the ground, and Apollo was thrown out immediately by his waist. After falling 3 times in a row, Apollo was dizzy this time. The former god of light was no longer majestic, and he could only be approached by Zero and thrown to the ground again. "Mortal, I want you to die." In order to maintain the majesty of the god of light, Apollo burst out with divine power, stood up from the ground, and prepared to show Zero the power of the god of light. But, boom! Half a second later, Apollo was thrown to the ground again. Jello, who had not fought for a long time, was just warming up, so he stepped back to make room, and stretched out his hand to Apollo, saying provocatively, "Don't tell mortals that the god of light is only this good, Apollo." "Damn it." Apollo gnashed his teeth in anger. He got up from the ground and rushed towards Jello again. This huge body really affects the movement. Apollo thought secretly in his heart. In the mythological era, Apollo had seen many monsters of huge bodies, but most of them were very stupid, and these large monsters were finally solved by demigod heroes. Even demigod heroes can do it, so can I, the god of light. Apollo thought so. Facing Apollo's sudden attack like light, Jello, who was almost undefeated as long as he stood on the ground, just slightly turned sideways and caught Apollo's flaw of 1/1000th of a microsecond. Suddenly, Jello grabbed Apollo's ankle with his right hand, then stretched out his left hand to strangle Apollo's other ankle. After spinning twice in the air at high speed, he turned Apollo's head and made Apollo fall headfirst into the ground. This falling headfirst was extremely insulting to Apollo. With his anger growing more and more intense, Apollo used his divine power to shake off the surrounding land and flew out of the ground. The anger made Apollo lose his mind, but it also allowed him to slightly restore the power of the god of light. In the blink of an eye, Apollo turned into a small sun, and even the Alps, where the temperature was not very high, rose several degrees. If the Apollo of the mythological era had tried his best to vent his divine power, the sea level of the earth would probably drop a lot. But even if the Apollo of the mythological era stood in front of Jello, there was only one result, that is, defeat. The light of the earth and the light of the ocean were maximized in the gay armor. If the current Apollo is a small star, then the current Jello is a planet. Neither of the two energies was weaker than the other, and the next moment, Zero and Apollo collided with each other. Boom! A beam of light rose from the ground, and Ares, who was standing by, felt terrible. She took a few steps back and murmured, "Is this the power that humans can control?" He can't be the descendant of some alien god, right? At this time, Ares just wanted to escape from here, but if she didn't take Apollo back, her situation would probably not be much better. When the beam of light dissipated, Zero, wearing gay armor, was holding Apollo in his hand. It seemed that the outcome was already determined. After throwing Apollo out heavily and making Apollo eat a mouthful of mud, Zero said coldly, "Put away your arrogant temper in the future. Times have changed, old gods, now is not the time for you to have the final say. The gods in the original Greek mythology were not good people, and the Greek gods in this DC universe were not much better. So Zero didn't have any good feelings towards them. In the past 3 years, many old gods on Earth have come to test Jello, and Jello has tried to buy time, so he turned a blind eye as much as possible. But now Jello has completed most of the UA series armor and condensed a new body, and his combat power is stronger than before. Even the third stage of the development of the concept fragments has begun to be touched by Jello. Now, there is no need to hide from these old gods." Jello looked at Apollo in front of him, and circles of magic runes appeared on the holy fist of the earth. This is the power of the silent bracelet. If you want to deal with these old gods, the magic damage ability of the silent bracelet is perfect. 3 years ago, Jello used this ability to kill an evil god, so what can Jello do now? "You can't kill me, light is an indispensable law of the world, I can't die." Apollo was obviously panicked, and even lied to Jello that he was an indispensable part of the world. But it's okay to lie to outsiders, but to lie to Jello, it's difficult, unless Jello's forehead is hit by his brother with an end-metal hammer. "Oh, really?" Jello questioned. He gathered his strength silently, and his figure became taller in Apollo's eyes. It was only 5 meters high, but in Apollo's eyes it was so insurmountable. At this moment, Apollo thought of his father, Zeus, the king of Olympus. "I'm afraid Zeus is only this level, right?" Apollo thought so. It is debatable who is stronger between Jello and Zeus. After all, it is difficult for the old gods now to maintain their full strength unless they are top-level beings like the 3-Palace demon. If you die, the gods of light in other pantheons should be very happy, right? "I think they should be very happy to take over your duty," Jello said coldly. The relationship between these old gods is not very good. They will only work together at critical moments, such as dealing with Darkseid in his youth. But as soon as Darkseid left, the major pantheons began to fight each other, and only a few pantheons did not care about this kind of thing. It can even be said that most pantheons are eager for the other side to die sooner. Every time an old god dies, the old gods of other pantheons have an extra chance to gain the power of faith. So Jello doesn't care about what Apollo said, because if Apollo doesn't do it, there are other old gods who will do it. At this time, Jello has also finished accumulating power, and the holy fist of the earth seems to have become the incarnation of the earth, and it hits Apollo heavily. The next moment, Apollo was smashed to pieces by Jello, and a large amount of light power scattered out. Seeing this, Jello, who was quick-eyed and quick-handed, quickly took out a container and collected these light powers. This light power is a good thing, and it can be used to enhance the strength of his nephews and cousins. However, Jello found that something was missing. Britain, Earth North Alps. According to the memory of the previous life, after the death of the old gods, the godhood will be transferred to the god killer. Wonder Woman in the original timeline inexplicably became the god of war for a period of time. As for being an old god, Jello sneered and held the attitude of whoever wants to do it can do it. But after solving Apollo, Jello did not find Apollo's godhood. Doppelganger. Jello guessed. The tricks that these old gods like to play the most are to play dead in various ways. After all, they have lived for thousands of years. Even if their brains are not working well, they must have many ways to save their lives. Thinking of this, Jello replaced the gay armor. With a flash of red and blue light, the invincible armor on Earth was put back into the sapphire bracelet and sapphire cone. Then, Jello's eyes swept around. He looked at the surroundings that became a little messy because of the battle and snapped his fingers lightly. Snap after the snap of her fingers, the destroyed trees and land around her, and even the Alps, whose temperature had risen collectively because of Apollo, were restored to their original state. Gulp. Seeing Jello, whose means were more powerful than most gods, Ares was scared. Even Apollo, who was ranked at the top of the gods, had been killed once. She, who could only talk, had better run away quickly. "See you later, Star Shatter Light," Ares said softly. With Apollo's miserable condition, Ares did not dare to be arrogant, and even the name had a little commendation. As soon as she finished speaking, Ares ran away. Killing Ares would not benefit herself, so Jello and Donna did not chase after her. At this time, Donna smiled and looked at Jello, and asked, "By the way, you had fully recovered when ours came to you, right? Why did you wait until Apollo came to you before you took action? Ours is a poor old man, there is no benefit in killing him." Jello shrugged his shoulders, and then explained to Donna, "But Apollo is different, his light power is a good thing." "So, you're eyeing Apollo's power?" Donna came to Jello, put her chin on Jello's shoulder, and said, "What if it wasn't Apollo who came? Would you still take action?" "It depends on their attitude," Jello said casually, then stretched out his hand to hold Donna's waist, and told her the reason why he was going to come back to the arena. "And I saw the news on TV this morning that the Justice League defeated a monster in Metropolis, a monster that I hate very much. What special monster makes you care so much?" Donna asked curiously. With Jello's strength, most giant monsters can't last more than 2 minutes in Jello's hands. The monster that can make Jello so worried must not be a simple one. "Because the monster is called Bruton," Jello said solemnly. "Bruton, a 4-dimensional monster, this monster that looks like a ball is also a special existence among many monsters. Although the DC universe does not need Bruton to deal with harmful substances, Bruton's death is bound to cause the universe to distort, and eventually led to the birth of the Void Monster Geyser." The Void Monster Geyser, Jello feels a headache just thinking about this name. "Bruton? I seem to have heard you say this name." Donna frowned slightly when she heard it, and muttered, "It seems very troublesome, right? Moreover, didn't you say that this kind of monster needs 2 special minerals to combine to appear? How can it appear in Metropolis? So I'm curious who released Bruton in Metropolis." Jello closed his eyes, and a very bad thing appeared in his mind. Metropolis, a city that has a good status for Jello and Superman. 6 months ago, Superman's child, Jonathan Kent, was born into this world. Thinking of this, Jello's mind automatically appeared the insolent laughter. "Let's go, Donna, the vacation time is over." After that, Jello turned his sight to the direction of the lighthouse country, wanting to see the truth clearly. But no matter how Jello looked, the direction of Metropolis was a fog. Metropolis time. Friday, June 15, 2018. Put on a not-so-expensive suit, walk into the building of the Daily Planet, sit in your workstation, put on thick glasses like the bottom of a wine bottle, and type on the computer screen for a day. The red Axis mechanical keyboard with just the right trigger key travel crackled in the hands of Clark Kent, who was full of thoughts. About 2 hours later, a press release with appropriate wording appeared in Clark's hands. After printing out the first version of the press release, Clark gave the press release to the editor-in-chief Perry White for review. After getting a good information, Clark also went back satisfied. Time passed quickly. When it was time to get off work, Clark took his things and left the Daily Planet. Getting in a fuel-efficient 4-seat, Clark bought some things for his family before going back. After another 20-minute drive, Clark returned to the door of his apartment. He took out his key and opened the door. "Louise, Jonathan, I'm back." After saying hello, the 6-month-old Joe walked to Clark with a staggering step and uttered 2 syllables in a childish voice. "Dad, Dad." Joe is a hybrid of Earthlings and Kryptonians. His abilities are definitely better than other children. This is also a headache for Clark. What if Joe can't integrate into the Earth in the future? Clark once worried about this, but he thought about Jello and himself and felt relieved. At most, he could let his grandparents take care of Joe for a few years. The 2 elders also have experience in this area. "Clark, are you back? It's time for dinner." Louise, who was temporarily on paid leave at home, said to Clark in the kitchen. Hearing his beloved wife's call, Clark smiled slightly. He lifted up little Joe with his broad arms and walked towards the restaurant. At dinner time, Clark couldn't help but think of Bruton, who was defeated some time ago. According to the information given by Jello, this monster will pose a greater threat after being killed, but no anomalies have occurred so far. But Clark still felt a little uneasy. Louise saw Clark's worry and asked when little Joe was concentrating on eating. "Clark, what's wrong with you? Are you worried about something?" "No." Before Clark could answer, a long bell suddenly rang at the door. Who had come to visit them at this time? Thinking of this, Clark subconsciously used his perspective eyes to look outside the door, and then he got up and opened the door with peace of mind. Click. When the door opened, a face that had not been seen for a long time appeared, and Clark said sincerely, "Long time no see, Jello, it seems that your vacation is over." Chapter Cloud Out. Earth North Metropolis. When Clark opened the door and saw the familiar face, he could not help but feel a little joy in his heart. "Long time no see, brother." Jello smiled, then picked up the things in his hand and said, I bought some things when I came here to give my little nephew a happy childhood. After that, Clegg used his perspective eyes to look at the things in Jello's hand. With the help of perspective eyes, Clegg found that Jello was holding a lot of expensive toys in one hand, and in the other hand, there were a lot of early childhood learning books. Are you sure this is a happy childhood for my son? Just when Clegg was thinking so, the white and tender little Joe walked to Clegg. He pulled his father's trouser leg and asked timidly, Dad, who are they? This is your uncle, Jello Kent. Clegg saw this and wiped Xiao Cao's head and introduced, and this, your uncle's girlfriend, Donna Troy. When Clegg didn't know how to say it, Donna said it first. Then according to what my parents taught me, she is my Aunt Donna. Xiao Cao said innocently. When Xiao Cao said this, Donna was immediately delighted. Is this recognized by Jello's family? Donna thought so. Silly child. Jello looked at Xiao Cao and squatted down, but Jello, who was 1.97 meters tall, was still a height difference with Xiao Cao even if he squatted down. We are still just lovers now, not married yet. But isn't that just a matter of time? Xiao Cao tilted his head and said puzzledly. Hearing this, Donna's smile was even more overflowing, thinking that this little nephew is so good at talking, and every word he said was from her heart. You kid. Jello rubbed his temples pretending to have a headache, and then said, Oh, by the way, where is your mother? My mother is still in the kitchen. Xiao Cao honestly pointed in a direction. Oh, by the way, why did you choose to come back at this time? Is it because? Clegg suddenly asked. In the middle of his words, Clegg suddenly remembered that Xiao Cao was still there. In order to give his son a childhood that would not be involved in various superpower wars, he had always been thinking of hiding as much as possible. Jello, who knew Clegg's character well, smiled slightly and immediately continued, Something happened at the company, so I ended my vacation in the Alps. In the past 3 years, the size of M78 Technology Co. Limited has also become larger. At present, the main industries of M78 Technology Co. Limited are new energy batteries and medical products. It is a newcomer in these two industries. But outside of these two major fields, M78 Technology Co. Limited ranks among the world's top in terms of games. Whether it is the well-made Ultra armor that is linked to the Giant of Light, or the holographic cards released a year and a half ago, they are well known worldwide. Even old game companies find it difficult to catch up with their technology. The holographic card game is the product of Jello's castration of the meteor technology. The gameplay is similar to Jello's previous life Yu-Gi-Oh! Except that you can't duel in the dark, players can have a holographic duel with friends anytime and anywhere as long as they hold a game terminal. Is it about the company? Clegg nodded pretentiously, and then said, Okay, I understand. Do you want to stay tonight? Then I'll trouble you. Jello replied. Then, Jello and Donna stayed in the guest room. The next morning, Jello and Clegg came to the balcony tacitly and talked about the past 3 years. Have you had a good time in the past 3 years? Clegg asked. It's okay, but there are annoying flies occasionally. Jello stretched and said. In the past 3 years, there are many forces like Mount Olympus that know Jello as the Giant of Light. Most of them have mysterious abilities. In addition to thousands of years of accumulation, these old gods always want to test whether Jello has really lost his power. In order to buy time, Jello simply played along with them. This situation continued until Apollo arrived. Jello, who no longer wanted to endure it, took action directly and killed Apollo's divine power clone with absolute momentum, and shocked those guys in the dark. I'm happy most of the time. Jello said again, by the way, how is Titan? Titan? It's going well. After you took a vacation, Kona and a superhero Cody named Beast Boy joined and made up for Titan's combat power. Clegg told Jello about Titan's recent situation, and then he said, 2 days ago, a young hero Cody named Blue Beetle joined Titan, and he admires you very much. When talking about Superboy, Clegg paused obviously. It seems that even after so long, he doesn't know how to deal with it. After all, Kona is like having a child out of wedlock. It's normal for his brother to find it difficult to accept, Jello thought. What about Beast Boy, a boy who can transform into various animals? Jello has a very deep impression of him. After all, Beast Boy is also that founder of Titan in some timeliners. And if it comes to Blue Beetle, Jello thinks of Red Beetle who followed him by force and never had a chance to appear. Superboy, Beast Boy, Blue Beetle, it seems that Titan has developed well recently. Jello touched his chin with satisfaction, and said, I hoped it can still control these guys. That's great. Clegg suddenly sighed, you have a really good relationship with that kid, not like me and Bruce at all. Hearing this, Jello frowned slightly and asked curiously, is he thinking about killing you again? When has he not thought about killing me? Clegg rolled his eyes. ... Jello's forehead suddenly hid rows of black lines. Batman is also a person who has a cell in Arkham Asylum. His unique way of thinking determines that he will not trust anyone. But he has no time to care about me recently, because the Joker ran away from Gotham, and he is having a headache because of this matter. Clegg put his hand on the balcony railing, and it seems that he is not worried about the Joker. But when these words fell into Jello's ears, it was a different situation. In Jello's memory, the Joker had escaped from Gotham only a few times, and there was only one record of the Joker running to Metropolis. That was the event that led the entire world to an irreversible point. Thinking of this, Jello's red eyes became sharp. Clegg beside him also noticed Jello's abnormality and asked, Jello, are you thinking about something? In Titan's recent situation, Earth North Metropolis, the breeze passed through countless steel trees and finally blew Jello's hair. Facing his brother's question, Jello shook his head and replied, I was just thinking, what would happen if the Joker came to Metropolis? After all, Jello didn't save the rest. Superman's brain computing power is definitely very strong, but the loopholes in his thinking mode, plus some unique characteristics of the Joker, make him fall into a disadvantage when facing the Joker. Moreover, Jello speculated that the DC universe he was in belonged to the N52 period, that is, there was a blue bird walking monster who had been watching Clegg's every move. The blue bird walking monster also regarded Clegg as a test subject and always wanted to see what Clegg would do. Thinking of this, Jello remembered a car accident he experienced when he was a child. If he hadn't been there, I'm afraid his adopted father would have died on the spot. After becoming stronger, Jello felt more and more that something was wrong with that matter, especially recently. Don't worry, the Joker can't make any waves in Metropolis. Clegg puffed up his chest confidently, very sure of his own strength. He left the railing and said proudly, even if I need to deal with Apocalypse and protect Metropolis, I, Superman, am still invincible. ... This time it was Jello's turn to roll his eyes. Do you still want to say that you are the top of the world, and you, Superman, are the best? So, Jello ruthlessly sabotaged him, then don't let me and Batman save you when the time comes. You won't even give me a chance to show off. Clegg smiled awkwardly. He adjusted his glasses and continued in a serious tone. However, the problem of the Joker cannot be underestimated. Even if this madman only killed one person, I will not let him go. Then I'll do it then. Jello looked up at the sky and said, with my ability, I will ensure that the guy will die without a burial place. Hearing this, even though Clegg knew that his brother did not have the concept of not killing, he couldn't help but be stunned, and said, that's not what I meant, and I don't want to dirty your hands, Jello. Whatever. Jello stood up and prepared to leave the apartment. He looked at little Joe who was playing with Donna in the living room, and said to Clegg, pay more attention to little Joe as he grows up, give him a good childhood, and I feel that little Joe is a little different. In Jello's vision, the condition of little Joe's body cells was a little special, and his cells were in an overflowing state. If Shao Kahn realizes his ability, he will probably become a super baby who can fly into the sky and into the earth in an instant, but if he doesn't realize it, he is just a normal human child. It's just that the balance between them is a little fragile. Shao Kahn may be excited and use his ancestral superpowers. For this situation, Jello can only remind his brother more and let him pay more attention to the child's mentality. He may be stronger than me. Clegg also said honestly, even in the long history of Krypton, Shao Kahn's situation is rare. My father said that there is a possibility that Shao Kahn is stronger than me. It should be just a possibility, right? Jello replied, you are not much worse than Shao Kahn. Kryptonians become stronger by basking in the sun, and Earthlings can also become stronger by inhaling radon. Jello himself doesn't know what will happen if these two situations are superimposed. Hopefully, I just hope that Shao Kahn can grow up safely and not be like me. As he said, Clegg's eyes flashed with a few traces of pain. It seems that he remembered the past in that small town. People always have past events that are difficult to look back on, and even Superman is no exception. Take it easy, brother. Jello patted Clegg's shoulder, which was easy for Jello, who was already taller than his brother. Don't think about it. Clegg suddenly felt relieved. I have to take Shao Kahn and Louise to the park today. This is a vacation that I finally get. Do you and Donna want to come with us? Jello shrugged his shoulders and replied, no, I want to go to Titan to see. I'm curious about their current situation. Okay, then you go and chat with your friends. Then, Jello and Donna said hello to Louise and left Metropolis. The P1 superbus sped on the road, and its figure was like a red lightning. Sitting in a co-pilot, Donna, who had just heard Jello's plan, frowned and said with a little worry, Jello, do you really want to do that? Otherwise, how can I know the current strength of Titan? Jello put his hands on the steering wheel and turned it slightly, and the red lightning-like sports car overtook again. And that was me testing them. I wouldn't let anything really happen to them anyway. But what if they run into a big bad guy who kills without blinking an eye? As soon as he finished speaking, the supercar stopped near Happy Harbor. Looking at the mountain where the Titan base was hidden, Jello smiled. Long time no see. Titan base. After 3 years, the facilities inside the Titan base have been updated several times. The sophisticated protection measures ensure that not even a locust can jump in. In this safe place, Blue Beetle is practicing with Beast Boy. Blue Beetle carries the Scarab's egg, which can transform into various high-tech weapons, while Beast Boy can transform into various animals. The battle between the two can be said to be very dazzling. Jaime, do you have any other weapons? I want to see the new technology. A big green tiger spoke human language. If it were placed in the outside world, it would probably scare many people. In front of the green tiger, Jaime, who was wearing a black and blue beetle armor, spread his hands and replied, not for now, and the new weapons will take time for me and the beetle to develop. Boring. The green tiger complained, and turned back into a human form in Jaime's eyes, and then said to the people outside the field, everyone, it's your turn. Garfield, how about I play with you? Kona, who had grown up a lot, walked into the training ground. Seeing him rubbing his hands, he must have been waiting for a long time. But I can't hurt you, but my hands will hurt. Beast Boy Garfield complained, you are just like Superman. Ha ha ha, I'm still far from Superman. Kona laughed. In my eyes, you are all the same. Garfield muttered. Bang! Suddenly, a sound appeared in Garfield's ears, and then all the lights around disappeared. What happened? Everyone thought of it at the same time. The operating system of the Titan base is very perfect, and it is impossible for the power to go out for no reason, unless someone raids. When the Titans thought of this possibility, a voice suddenly rang out in the base. Ciao tutti is Italian, which means hello everyone in Chinese. Chapter just passing by. Earth North Happy Harbor Time. June 16, 2018. As the voice sounded, all the Titans present followed the direction of the voice. Who are you? Kona, who had supervision, was the first to discover the figure. It was a figure wearing heavy silver red metal armor. The layers of heavy armor ensure the life safety of the wearer, and the blue eyepieces like insect compound eyes were full of confidence. And at the waist of the figure, there was a silver belt, and there was a red beetle in the center of the belt. Seeing this, Kona immediately thought of Jaime. The red rhinoceros beetle and the blue stack beetle, this looks very problematic. What? You said that was. Jaime suddenly felt a wave of blue beetle on his back. The blue beetle was directly attached to Jaime's spine, and the special needles directly pierced Jaime's skin and directly connected to Jaime's nerves. So even if Jaime and the blue beetle did not speak the same language, the blue beetle could communicate with Jaime directly through nerve connection. After seeing the red and silver armor, the blue beetle immediately felt the identity of the other party. That's the Scarab warrior of the Far's egg, everyone be careful. Jaime warned everyone immediately. But Beast Boy didn't take Jaime's warning to heart, and turned into a green elephant while rushing towards the red and silver figure. Look at me crushing you. Beast Boy roared and rushed over. Under the heavy red and silver armor, Jello's mouth curled up slightly, and a hand axe appeared in his hand with a flip of his right hand. Too arrogant, kid. Jello smiled contemptuously, and swung an axe on the path that Beast Boy had to pass. After 3 years, Jello has changed a lot, and he deliberately changed his voice, making it difficult for outsiders to judge Jello's identity by his voice. The silver streak was like a divine light piercing the night, slashing towards Beast Boy's leg. At this time, except for Beast Boy, everyone had an idea in their mind Beast Boy would die under this blow. As if the scene of Beast Boy's blood and flesh flying everywhere was about to happen before his eyes, Kona, who didn't want to see this scene, flew out and flashed in front of Zero at a speed faster than Beast Boy. Bang! The arc-shaped ripples visible to the naked eye spread out in all directions, and the fierce impact even blew away Beast Boy, who had turned into an elephant. Kona crossed his arms in an X shape, and the silver hand axe rubbed against his arms, sparking bursts of sparks. Not bad, man of steel, maybe you were a descendant of Kryptonians? Zero spoke to Kona in a provocative tone. Feeling the terrifying power coming from his arms, Kona gritted his teeth. He knew that the enemy in front of him was not something that one person could deal with, so he shouted, "Everyone attack together, otherwise we can't beat him." Hearing this, Jaime, Wally, Beast Boy, and Starfire reacted and launched various attacks on Zero. In an instant, green and blue lasers complemented each other, lightning shuttled, and the green rhino rushed over. Good cooperation. First, use energy attacks to clear the way, then let the speedsters interfere with my judgment, and finally use the rhino's charge to make me lose my ability to resist. Jello praised the cooperation of these Titan members, but then, he suddenly changed the subject and said, "But no matter how good the tactics are, they must be supported by sufficient strength, otherwise it is just talk, and you know too little about me. Cast off." Jello gave an order, and the red beetle on his waist made a sound. Cast off changed beetle. A cold mechanical sound came from Jello's waist, and the red beetle's horn on his waist automatically changed. Then, the armor attached to Jello exploded under the action of electromagnetic force. These armors burst out at extremely fast speeds under the action of electromagnetic force, and the fastest even reached 2 kilometers per second. Under this terrible acceleration, each piece of armor became the most terrifying killing weapon. If you approach Jello easily, you will only be knocked down by these armors. Kona's face changed drastically when he just felt the airflow raised by the armor, but at this time, he was too late to speak to remind other teammates. The ejected armor deflected the laser, and the attacking green rhino was not dizzy. Only Wally, who was a speedster, could react. "No, we have to save Superboy first. He is closest to the mysterious man and must be the most seriously injured." As soon as this thought came to him, Wally sped up his actions, surrounded by lightning, and came behind Kona after several turns, and then pulled Kona away without hesitation. But the others were not so lucky. The ejected metal armor hit Starfire, Beast Boy, and Jaime, causing them to suffer varying degrees of injury. Jaime was in a better condition. After all, he hit the blue beetle armor to protect his body and had first-class life-saving ability. Beast Boy hit thick skin and flesh, so this only made him unconscious for a while. The situation on Starfire's side was a little worse. If she had not been transformed, this would have cost her half her life. After removing the armor on Zero's body had changed its appearance. The color is still mainly silver-red. The silver-red metal armor on the body still has a unique luster in the dark environment. The big red horn slowly rising from the chest armor is attached to the helmet, making the helmet look more like a rhinoceros beetle. Zero, who put on this set of armor for the first time in the battle, was a little happy in his heart. He raised his right hand and pointed upwards, and a sense of confidence arose spontaneously. "Who are you?" Wally, who took Kona to hide in the distance, asked. "It's just a Kamen Rider Kabuto passing by." Zero, who had wanted to say this for a long time, replied as quickly as possible. "Kamen Rider Kabuto? What are they?" Wally frowned in confusion, thinking that he had never dealt with similar enemies before. At this time, Kona also came back to his senses. He put on a fighting posture again and said seriously, "No matter who he is, we must defeat him, because this is our home. Yes, the factors of victory are on our side." Beast Boy also said on the side. Hearing this, Jello, who had been pointing his finger to the sky, replied confidently, "Someone once said that if I wish, fate will definitely be on my side, so you will definitely not my opponent." "Really? That's not certain." At this time, Jaime, whose hands turned into cannons, appeared behind Jello. Buzz buzz buzz. Clock up. Facing an attack that could send a parking lot into the sky, Jello just whispered, and then his figure disappeared in Jaime's eyes. Boom. In the eyes of everyone, the figure disappeared in front of the blue laser as if it had teleported. The most loving, Earth-not happy harbor in the Titan base, as the rhinoceros beetle armored man disappeared from everyone's sight, Beast Boy began to wonder if the other party had escaped. Did he use teleportation to escape? Beast Boy doubted. "No, the beetle told me that he is still here," Jaime said seriously. With the help of the connection between the blue beetle and other scarabs, Jaime was sure that the other party had not left the base, but disappeared from their sight. "He is just very fast." Wally's face under the mask became solemn. The speed provided by the Speed Force to the speedsters has never been just running fast, but a comprehensive speed enhancement, including the speed of nerve reaction. In Wally's sight, the mysterious man in the rhinoceros beetle armor was greeting him. Seeing this, Wally immediately clenched his fists and whispered, "Only the speedsters can intervene in the battle between speedsters. You quickly call for help, I will hold him back." As soon as Wally's voice fell, he turned into a flash of lightning and disappeared from everyone's sight. Wally! Kona wanted to shout, but Wally, who had entered the extreme speed state, could not hear him. In the high-speed world, everything in the world seemed to be slowed down, or even frozen. Kona was calling Wally from a distance, Starfire was calling for support, Blue Beetle was surprised evening the armor, and Beast Boy had not turned back into human form. Their movements seemed to have been paused. Lightning and Red Light were chasing each other, and in this environment, Zero was still in the mood to greet Wally. "Your speed has increased a lot, Flash Boy." Zero certainly did not have the speed force, and his Kabuto armor did not have the ability to manipulate tachyons to achieve clock up. The reason why he could compete with Wally and speed was entirely due to his own ability. Ultraman's human body has a special ability, high-speed movement. With this ability, human bodies can rush to the battle scene at an unimaginable speed. When this ability appeared on Zero, it showed a speed that could compete with Wally's incomplete form. Although Wally is still an incomplete form and is not the fastest Flash in the future, Jello has a set of the fastest armor that he has not used yet. "Don't call me so intimately. Who do you think you are?" Wally didn't want to pay attention. His right hand spun at high speed to form a whirlwind and threw it towards Jello. "That's hard to say, Kid Flash." Jello smiled slightly and used his telekinesis to create a tornado in the opposite direction, which collided with the tornado created by Wally with the speed force. The two tornadoes with completely opposite rotation directions collided with each other. If it were in the eyes of ordinary people, the two tornadoes would have disappeared within a second. But for Jello and Wally, this process would be much slower. The speed at which the tornado disappeared was very slow in the eyes of the two. Jello stepped on the tornado first. The tornado without substance was like a springboard in his eyes, and a red stream of light appeared on his right hand. One move will determine the outcome. "Kid Flash!" Jello shouted with his right fist clenched, ready to use this move to determine the outcome. "That's exactly what I meant." Wally replied unyieldingly, and then the speed force appeared in his hands, and he also used the supersonic punch that the speedsters used most often. The next moment, red light and lightning collided, and the majestic energy swept across the entire field in 1/1000th of a second. Boom! After a loud bang, smoke and dust filled everyone's eyes, and because of the interference of the energy aftermath, Kona's supervision was also disturbed. This made it impossible for everyone to see the battle situation in the field clearly. Ding ding! The next moment, the sound of metal collision sounded, and everyone looked closely and saw that Jello was holding the unconscious Wally in his left hand, and his right hand was still greeting everyone. "It seems that there are some of you who can fight, but it's only this level." After saying that, Jello shook Wally away, shook his head twice, spread his hands, and confidently challenged him. "Next, which friend will fight with my most caring Kamen Rider?" "Flash Boy." Kona saw Wally fainted, and his eyes instantly turned red. In the past 3 years, they have also gone on many missions and accumulated deep feelings. Now that Wally was knocked unconscious by the mysterious enemy, Kona, who could no longer restrain himself, immediately rushed towards Jello. Bang! A loud noise sounded in the room. If it weren't for the special abilities of everyone present, they would probably be stunned. "Superboy, that might be a trap," Starfire reminded, but it was too late. Kona, who appeared in front of Jello, threw a heavy punch. Jello, who was standing in front of Kona, could feel that Kona's punch contained a power far more terrifying than the cannonball when it was fired. "You have also made great progress, Superboy," Jello praised with relief, but this sounded like a mockery in Kona's ears. Hearing the taunt, Kona's fist suddenly increased in strength, and visible blue veins popped up on his skin. But when it comes to strength, this is also one of Jello's strengths. There is no fighting skill, just pure power condensed in the fist. Unparalleled power appears in Jello's arm. The next moment, the two fists sprayed against each other, and the milky white wave was lifted like a storm. In this moment, Kona and Jello fought to a draw, but as time went on, Kona was obviously exhausted. After all, Kona was a cloned person who was born, and his actual age was not even in the double digits, so how could he be Jello's opponent? In terms of human age, young people at the age of 23 are the most robust period. If calculated by Ultraman's age, 23 years old may not even be a full year old. No matter from which angle, Jello is stronger than Kona now. No, I can't lose. For my friends, I can't lose. With this belief, Kona is about to burst out with stronger power. But Jello didn't want to give him this chance. Good belief, it seems that you have really grown up. Who are you? Before Kona finished speaking, Jello used his telekinesis to shake Kona away. Kona, who couldn't withstand Jello's telekinesis, was knocked out and embedded in the wall. He couldn't be pulled down for a while. At this time, several voices suddenly sounded from the teleporter in the distance. Nightwine B, -02 Troy B, -03 C Boy B, -05 Mars Girl B, -07 Raven B, -08 With the appearance of the five figures, the situation on the field changed again. Seeing the support come in, Beast Boy immediately said, "That guy suddenly broke into our base and injured Flash Boy and Superboy." "Okay, I know." Nightwine replied to Beast Boy, and then looked at the rhinoceros armored man in Beast Boy's puzzled eyes and said, "Have you had enough fun?" Chapter Speculation. Earth not happy harboring the Titan base. After hearing Nightwine's words, several people present showed a puzzled look. Have you had enough fun? What does this sentence mean? Just when everyone was puzzled, the mysterious man in the red rhinoceros beetle armor removed the armor, and the red beetle on his waist flew away and disappeared in the distance. The armor also disappeared after the red beetle left, revealing a face that everyone except Beast Boy and Blue Beetle was very familiar with. Boss. Wally, who had just woken up with his head covered, saw Jello and immediately complained, "Boss, listen to me, there is a very annoying person in front who broke in. Did you beat him away?" With the magical Speed Force blessing, the speedster's recovery speed is also different from that of ordinary people, and Jello will not hit hard, so Wally woke up quickly. At this time, Kona, who was embedded in the wall, also fell down, and looked at Jello who appeared on the scene, and his heart was also mixed. "No need to look for him, the mysterious man just now with me," Zero said with a smile. "After 3 years, I have to see if you have made any progress." "What?" Wally raised his voice in confusion, "Is this a test?" Seeing this, Nightwine shook his head helplessly. He operated a few times on the ARM computer and started the backup power supply. The space was suddenly filled with light. If it weren't for Donna stopping them, I'm afraid Nightwine would be on his way to send them off. Overall, I can give a passing evaluation. Zero spread his hands and laughed. Looking at his old friend who had not talked much in the past 3 years due to some reasons, Nightwine said with a little complexity, "It seems that you have had a very happy life in the past 3 years, Ultraman." Titans maintain secret identities. Even people like Zero who often show their faces will use code names when communicating. However, Titans do not prohibit members from exchanging their true identities with each other, but members must bear the risk of leaking secrets with each other, such as Blue Beetle and Beast Boy. The environment in the Yabs is nice. You can go and see it if you have a chance. Jello stretched and said happily. On the side, Beast Boy, who had turned back into human form, poked Blue Beetle and said, "Jaime, that man should be your idol." "What's wrong? Don't you want to go over and ask for an autograph?" "I just feel that he is a little different from what I know." "He doesn't seem to be that difficult," Jaime said with mixed feelings. "What's difficult?" Beast Boy was very confused. He touched his still painful waist and said with a grin. "But his strength was really great that time. I still feel pain now. It just feels that he is not as mysterious as the legend says." Jaime scratched his head and then said, "Maybe I should take the initiative and go up to ask for an autograph or something." "Then do your best, Jaime." Beast Boy put his hand on Jaime's shoulder. At this time, Jello was still communicating with the first batch of Titans. Kaled, who had less communication with Jello, had also grown a lot and looked much stronger. Glancing at a badge on Calder from the corner of his eye, Jello asked curiously, "Young Master Hai, what is this on you?" "This is the logo of the Global Peace Search and Rescue Research Team. I joined as an Atlantean, hoping that the world can understand Atlantis from more perspectives." Calder told the current situation. The Global Peace Search and Rescue Research Team, or GPSRT for short, is a team that appeared during Jello's 3 years of seclusion. It seems to be related to the 3 permanent members of the upper world. It has the right of passage in various countries, but can only carry out rescue and scientific research activities. At present, the headquarters of the Global Peace Search and Rescue Research Team is in Sydney, and the headquarters building is also a scenic spot. Its members are all elites in various industries, and as a global organization, it has attracted a lot of attention, and its accounts on major social platforms are all top streams with more than 1 million fans. GPSRT? Jello repeated the name of the organization. Thinking of the organizational effectiveness of GPSRT, Jello remembered the TPC plan he had planned. This GPSRT, which was established under the instruction of the three upper constants, has the same purpose as the newly established TPC. Perhaps TPC can be established on the basis of this organization. Such an idea appeared in Jello's mind. But it only appeared for a moment, and Jello quickly put out this idea. The connection in GPSRT is too big. Even if the influence of M78 technology Co. Limited is expanded tenfold, it is difficult to form TPC, which is close to the ideal organization. But Jello does not have such a great influence, which does not mean that others do not have it. It just so happens that Jello has such a candidate in mind, who can become the first director of TPC to let the Earth enter a completely peaceful era. But before that, Jello still needs to think carefully. It's also a good choice to join GPSRT. Jello smiled slightly, then looked at Raven and asked, "What about you, Raven?" "I don't have much to say. It's nothing more than being admitted to a university. I plan to be a horror novel writer after graduation and write about what I have experienced," Raven said calmly. Before meeting Jello and his group, Raven had also experienced a lot of horrible supernatural things. At the time, Raven was still young, and it was also a psychological trauma for her. If Raven completely came out of it, Jello would be very happy for her. He had already greeted Wally before, so Jello ignored him and turned to look at Nightwine. Seeing Nightwine's face glowing and walking with the wind, Jello smiled knowingly. "When will you send out the invitations, good brother? I want to eat cake." "After a while, there are some problems recently." Nightwine frowned and said. Although he also wanted to marry Starfire as soon as possible, there was always a thorn in his heart. As long as this thorn existed for one day, he would not be able to prepare for the wedding peacefully. The Joker's thing, Jello guessed. Even if he flew to Bloodhaven alone now, Nightwine would not completely let go of Gotham's affairs. And for things like the Joker running out of Gotham, Nightwine would not stand idly by. Nightwine naturally speculated further. He nodded and said, "You knew it too?" "That's right, you should have ended your vacation because of this." "I ended my vacation because of Bruton's incident," Jello shrugged, then became serious, "but I think there is some special relationship between the Joker and Bruton. Monsters with special properties like Bruton are generally not a big threat, but it appeared in Metropolis very coincidentally, which is very problematic. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 7. The clowns blocked Earth-North while the Titans were sorting out the ins and outs of the incident, in an abandoned and dilapidated factory. The first person to arrive here was a figure wearing heavy armor, a horned helmet, and holding a battle axe. It seems that I am the first one to arrive. If Jello were here, he would definitely recognize that this person was Ars, who had tested him before. Ars, the god of war among the old gods of Olympus, his power comes from various wars on Earth. The larger the scale of the war, the stronger he is. However, with the reduction of wars in recent years, Ars's power has also weakened a lot. If the war disappears completely, Ars will not be far from disappearing. This is the limitation of the old gods. After Ars, a flash of lightning appeared in the factory. After several turns, it stopped in front of Ars. A human figure slowly appeared in front of Ars. Looking at the human figure wrapped in lightning, Ars thought of Hermes and couldn't help but compare the speed of the two. What a strange outfit, from the shooting site of a TV series. The man covered with lightning looked at Ars and said. Judging from his voice, this person is a bit similar to Ollie the Flash. Ars is not as arrogant as his brother. In this era of decline of the old gods, they can't help but be cautious. After all, Apollo, who has lost a lot of divine power, is still lying on Mount Olympus, and without enough faith to replenish his divine power, it will be a long time for Apollo to recover. I'm Ars, the god of war. You should have heard of my name. Ars replied. Ars. The one in Greek mythology. The man was surprised for a moment, but soon came to his senses. Even a man like him has a speed that can be said to crush physics to the ground. Even if a god appears in front of him, what does it matter? Yes, then what is your name? Ars said calmly. Since I'm the enemy of the Flash, you can just call me the Reverse Flash. As for my real name, never mind, it doesn't matter if I say it out loud. Daniel West, you'd better remember it. The new Reverse Flash Daniel West, whose name has some connection with Wally, rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully. Daniel West is the younger brother of Iris West, the lover of Barry Allen, the Flash. However, Daniel is not as kind as his sister. He is even more paranoid and has gone astray, starting to rob in Central City. But an ordinary human being robbing a bank in Central City can be said to be walking into a trap. The degree of his suicidal behavior is no less than committing a superpower crime in Metropolis, or being a street thug in Gotham. The highlight of the whole process is that he is looking for trouble. In the end, Daniel was caught by the Flash, his brother-in-law, and went to jail. During the time in jail, Daniel's mind was more distorted and he hated the Flash even more. After being released from prison, Daniel was chosen by the Speed Force in an accident and became a speedster. He also took over the long-lost Reverse Flash and became the second Reverse Flash. Daniel West, a name worth remembering. Oz smiled softly. He didn't care about Daniel's arrogance. He had seen many such people in his long years. It's just that humans are too fragile compared to gods. Oz can even kick some humans when they are about to die, but Oz won't do that. Daniel seemed to like Oz's praise very much. He looked around and asked curiously, "Where are the others? Didn't you say there were others? Why are there only 2 of us? Don't compare me with dirty things like you." At this time, a female voice full of disdain came from above, and Oz and Daniel immediately looked in the direction of the voice. It was a graceful body in a purple tights, with large pieces of spring-light leaking out. If it was put outside, it would probably cause a scream. Oz, calm as water, raised his head and asked calmly, "Who are you?" "Star Sapphire, you only deserve to know this." The woman who called herself Star Sapphire said coldly. "Star Sapphire?" This name is obviously a pseudonym, but Oz and Daniel did not ask too much. After all, everyone has some secrets, who doesn't? "It's you." At this time, a slightly childish figure appeared in front of the 3 people. "Child?" Daniel asked in confusion. The boy who appeared in front of everyone looked less than 17 years old, but Daniel felt a threat from him. But how could a child pose a threat to them? "Lowly human, I don't allow you to call a member of the noble Zod family like this." The boy who called himself a member of the Zod family looked at Daniel coldly, and 2 red lights appeared in his eye sockets. Damn it. Feeling the terrible murderous intent contained in those eyes, Daniel immediately shouted and stepped back a few steps. After seeing Daniel retreat, the boy put away his murderous intent. Kryptonian, Oz thought in his heart. But aren't there only 1 or 2 Kryptonians? How come another one came out? Oz was very confused. Just when Oz was confused, a sharp and high-pitched laugh suddenly rang out. Ha 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 ha. That laugh was more terrifying than the sound of any creature in the world, and Daniel even had a trace of fear in his heart. Then, a thin and long shadow appeared on the ground, and then that figure appeared in front of everyone. "Welcome everyone to this party, I wish you all have fun." This person said the blessing words, but there was not even a little item for fun around. Seeing that no one wanted to respond, he seemed a little disappointed, lowered his head and muttered, "Please, I finally got everyone together, don't spoil the fun like this." The audience was still silent. This man, with pale makeup, cracked lips covered with bright red lipstick, sparse green hair, and a purple tuxedo that looked dirty as if it hadn't been washed for decades, was like the worst circus clown. He made clumsy movements and made a balloon dog and threw it to the crowd. The balloon dog slowly fell to the ground, bounced lightly, and suddenly exploded. Boom! There was a sound like a grenade explosion. Everyone was very confused as to why they couldn't feel the abnormality of the balloon dog. The clown made a silent gesture and said mysteriously, "Because God is behind me." Ha 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 ha. Bad Warcraft. Is there a god behind Earth Naught? When the Joker said this, Daniel showed a puzzled look. Although the Lighthouse country is a free and modern country, the religious atmosphere is also extremely strong. Many people have heard of things related to God. You, the Joker, have nothing to do with devout believers, right? Can God stand on your side? What a joke. However, the Joker's madness is well known in the world. As long as you know Gotham, it is impossible not to know the existence of the Joker. In addition to Daniel, Star Sapphire and Krypton Boy don't take the god mentioned by the Joker seriously. As for Oz, he didn't show anything, and no one knew what the eyes under the helmet were thinking. But in order to start a huge war and draw enough power from it to maintain his own existence, Oz still said, "Ally, what are you going to do next?" After entering the 21st century, wars have been decreasing day by day. when humans have completely made peace, ours will be not far from death. Of course, it's to bring a little surprise to our scouts, dear ours," the Joker said with a wild laugh. When the clown finished speaking, Star Sapphire, who had been hanging in the air, had a different opinion. She frowned slightly and said unhappily, "Boy Scout. Who is that? I only care about the green light." "Don't worry, beautiful lady, I won't miss the grand banquet." The clown smiled confidently and even took out a red rose from his pocket, wanting to give it to Star Sapphire. But, swish! With a slight sound of breaking through the air, a purple light broke through the air and smashed the red rose into pieces. Star Sapphire had a gloomy face. The strong purple light seemed to turn her into a purple sun. She looked at the clown coldly and threatened, You are not worthy. Oh, what a bummer, you really broke my little heart." The clown spread his hands, the corners of his mouth drooped exaggeratedly, and the expression on his face became very depressed. Then, he took out a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his tears. Everyone watched the clown's performance silently, and they were also very curious. The youngest and most restless Kryptonian boy said, "Tell me the plan that can destroy the elf family, Earthling. I've seen enough of your performance." Ha ha ha. The clown put away his frustration and suddenly laughed. "Since we have to deal with the Kryptonians, we have to get the poison to deal with the Kryptonians." Hearing this, the Kryptonian boy frowned, as if he remembered something. The armor on Ars's body trembled slightly twice, and he seemed to understand something, while Daniel and Star Sapphire did not understand what the poison in the clown's words meant. Then, the clown turned his back and took out a pocket watch from his arms. He opened the cover of the pocket watch and took a look at the time and sighed. A strange color flashed in his crazy green eyes. "Since the time is not up yet, let's have a rehearsal first." As soon as the voice fell, everyone saw the clown take out a piece of debris from his arms. There was a bad mark in the center of the fragment, and Daniel noticed this scene. He wouldn't be so obsessed with Batman that he would engrave Batman's mark everywhere, right? Daniel thought to himself. The Joker looked at the concept fragment in his hand, but did not use it directly, but threw it directly to the ground. Then, in a place where no one noticed, a blue butterfly engraved with an atomic symbol flew by, and then the fragment expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. In certain specific cases, the concept fragment will automatically extend the corresponding creature when there is no user. The corresponding creature that appears in this case will become stronger due to the strength of the universe it is in. Of course, there is also the possibility of weakening. But in the DC universe where talents emerge in large numbers and major events will enter at the beginning, where single entities are worse than dogs and multiple entities are everywhere, most of the corresponding creatures will only become stronger. This situation requires specific conditions to occur, and the probability is only 1 in 1,000, but if there is a god who manipulates quantum standing behind you, the probability of success is close to 100%. A moment later, a bat-shaped monster appeared in front of the Joker. This bat monster has scarlet eyes, and its terrifying fangs can even pierce Ultraman's skin, and its hands are huge wings. It's exactly the same posture as I imagined. Ha ha ha. You're so awesome. The Joker excitedly stepped forward to touch the bat monster, as if he mistook the monster in front of him for someone else. Is that a Man-Bat? Daniel below remembered the villains that had appeared in Gotham City. Man-Bat, this person was once a scientist in Gotham City. Because of a coincidence, he injected himself with a drug and turned himself into a half-man, half-bat existence, so he was called Man-Bat, commonly known as Man-Bat. But Daniel was sure that it was not a Man-Bat. The feeling that seemed like a natural enemy made Daniel think that the other party was a mythical vampire. The blood-sucking monster, whose real name was Theranos, wrapped itself up with its wings, and then a huge shadow spread under its feet, and countless bats flew out of it. This scene made other people frown. With so many bats, even if they were not afraid of the viruses carried by bats, they were worried that the dirt brought by bats would disgust them. After the bats that were like a black cloud destroying the city were far away, Daniel asked the Joker curiously, "Excuse me, what should we do next?" "Just wait." Bingo, the answer is correct. The Joker clapped his hands and laughed, because it will take some time for the real Joker to appear. The real Joker? What is this guy talking about? But it is so difficult to get useful information from a madman, so everyone gave up this idea and could only wait for things to ferment slowly. At this time, on the moon that was once broken but restored by Noah's power, a blue figure was looking at the Earth. The experimenters entered the second stage. Dr. Manhattan said to himself, After taking in all the Joker's actions, Dr. Manhattan turned his eyes to another direction and said again, "Although I can't do anything to you because of some agreements, if it really comes to that, what will you choose?" Dr. Manhattan said while predicting the future through the trajectory of the movement of elementary particles. In Drive Manhattan's earliest prediction, it would be a tragedy, and love, friendship, family affection, and all human feelings that are worth paying attention to would be shattered in it. Dr. Manhattan was able to get the results he wanted, but now for some reason, Dr. Manhattan found that his predictions were inaccurate. Manhattan, Earth not Moon. The result became unpredictable in Dr. Manhattan's eyes, but the more so, the more curious Dr. Manhattan became. What will the result be? Dr. Manhattan even wanted to show his curiosity when he was still an ordinary human. Thinking of this, Dr. Manhattan did not manipulate the probability of things, but let things develop naturally. At this time, a silent upheaval was taking place in the Lighthouse Country. In the hotter areas suitable for the reproduction of small animals, bats flew into some residents' homes. Many residents did not take these bats seriously. After all, they were just bats and could be driven away. But when these residents picked up brooms to drive away the bats flew to their faces, pierced their skin with sharp teeth, and injected an unknown virus into their bodies. This is a blood-sucking virus that can only be transmitted by infected people and bats. The onset time is also very short. It only takes 2 or 3 seconds for the virus to transform a living person into a vampire. It took only enough for the first batch of 100,000 victims to be completely infected. In order not to cause riots, the virus also secretly entered the inert period, so that the victims did not see any abnormality from the outside. But when night comes, these victims will become countless vampires, expanding their groups in the dark. However, that is a story for later. Can't I change anything? A ghost-like figure looked at this scene, and painful memories emerged. Faced with these things that he had experienced and led the world to an irreversible situation, he had no chance to change them. He could only watch it all happen. Watching another world step into an irreversible point. No, I want to change all this, and I can't let that happen again. He became determined, and the illusory figure floating with data disappeared in the air. He did not disappear, but followed a fiber optic cable under his feet into the vast and boundless data world. Time: June 18, 2018. After reminiscing with his former friends at the Jello Happy Harbor base, 2 more days passed, and the expected Glyzacco did not appear. But this did not reassure Jello, but made him more nervous. In the past 3 years, Jello's research on concept fragments has become more in-depth. As long as there is time and space, the concept fragments will automatically give birth to corresponding monsters in the DC universe. And the longer the birth time, the stronger the monster will be. There was once a record that Grazer was born after Bruton was defeated, but the time Grazer's birth only took 24 hours, and Grazer was completely formed. But this time Grazer's birth took too long. From June 14 when Bruton was beaten by the Justice League to today, the 18th, too much time has passed. But Grazer still has no signs of birth. All the data in Metropolis is at normal values, and no one heard strange laughter at the battle scene. Everything is very normal. But just like a child who doesn't make a sound is destined to be a demon, the more normal the situation is, the more Jello thinks there is a bigger problem. Standing on the top of a building in Metropolis, Jello, wearing armor, looked at the city as before. Jello will not give up just because the situation is normal. The more normal the situation is, the bigger the problem he thinks there is. Jello jumped down from the roof and disappeared into the night. Then, Jello came to the scene where the Justice League had fought with Grazer. He calmed down and the earth seemed to be one with him. At this moment, Jello could clearly feel everything that happened in Metropolis. Even if the wild dogs were in heat, he could clearly feel it, but he didn't find anything. The surrounding environment was very normal. It seems that I'm not the only one who thinks there is something wrong behind the matter. Come out, friend. Before leaving, Jello said something to a dark corner, then stretched out his hand, and blue light condensed in his palm, looking like he was going to force the other party. Jello just now could perceive everything in Metropolis, so how could he miss this uninvited guest? Under Jello's threat, a figure with a shiny forehead came out. He was wearing a black suit that was equally expensive, and raised his hands above his head to surrender. Lex Luthor, why is he here? Jello thought puzzledly. The big bald man in front of him had no monster information, and no information from Zero. Could he also be aware of what was going on behind the scenes? However, Lex Luthor was judged to be a 9th level intelligent being, the highest level that a mortal can reach. Above that, there are only various abnormal artificial intelligences. Long time no see, Ultraman. Lex said with a smile, and put down his hand raised above his head. He was not worried that Zero would kill him. It seems that you have also noticed the problems behind this matter. Am I right? Zero asked. Yes. Lex cleared his throat, especially when those problems are related to Superman. Oh? You also care about Superman's safety? Zero said embarrassedly. Don't get me wrong, I don't care about Superman's safety, but the only one who can defeat him is me. Lex Luthor said with great dignity, and every word he uttered was very powerful. The only one who can defeat him is me. Zero listened to these words that were almost like a confession, and thought it was a pity that he didn't turn on the recording function just now. If Batman heard this, the effect would definitely be very explosive. Jello was speechless. Ahem. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little awkward, Lex coughed twice. Just you know what I mean. Does this also include being a clone of you and him? Jello looked directly at Lex, and said every word carefully, or when he and his lover were in the passionate period and were preparing to get married. That was just a coincidence. Lex argued. Really? Jello's voice was full of doubt. Believe it or not. Lex rolled his eyes and asked, so, have you found anything useful? Jello shook his head. No, I can only wait. Anyway, he didn't find anything. Jello was too lazy to hide it, and said it directly. It seems that you are the same as me. Lex suddenly raised his eyebrows. Then let's say goodbye. I hope you can find something useful. Goodbye. Jello, who didn't want to have more contact with Lex for the time being, waved his hand and disappeared into the night. Dark City, Earth North Lighthouse Country Time. June 19, 2018. In a city lacking superheroes, late at night, a police officer was sitting in his car on night duty. The visibility tonight was extremely low. Even with the high beam on, it was difficult to see the scenery 10 meters away. The thick fog added a veil to the night. In this case, the police officer could only stay in the car, hoping that the night would pass quickly. After taking a sip of coffee in the cup, the caffeine successfully sobered the police officer up a little. After a long breath, the police officer found that the temperature in the car had dropped a lot, but it was obviously summer now, and the city he was in was still tropical, so how could he feel cold in June? The police officer looked around in fear, and in his eyes, white frost appeared on the car window. Damn, what's going on? This abnormal scene in front of him extremely stimulated the police officer. He pulled out a semi-automatic pistol and used the only weapon on his body to give himself a sense of security. Human fear often comes from the unknown. As time passed, the officer's heartbeat became faster and faster. He felt as if a ferocious beast appeared in front of him and pounced on him. Don't move. Bang, bang, bang. After the warning, the magazine emptying technique from the Lighthouse Country's traditional martial arts was used. However, even if the magazine was emptied, it only broke the front window of the car. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The officer looked at the scene in disbelief, but before he could come to his senses, a black shadow swept to the side of the police car. Then, the black shadow stretched out its clawed hands and pulled down the door of the police car with a harsh metal cutting sound. This process was very short, only 2 or 3 seconds, and the officer had no time to react. Then, the black shadow pounced on the officer and pierced the officer's skin with its fangs. The officer only felt a dizzy and dark in front of his eyes, his hands fell down weakly, his eyes turned white, and his heartbeat slowly slowed down. Half a minute later, the officer closed his eyes completely, and the black shadow disappeared in the mist. After the shadow completely disappeared, a man in a khaki windbreaker dropped the cigarette butt in his hand, stamped it out with his cheap leather shoes, and said worriedly, "It seems that a new type of vampire has appeared. The speed, strength, blood absorption, confusion, all abilities are stronger than the vampires I know. Alas, it is getting harder and harder to make money." The man walked into the crime scene while complaining. He came to the side of the police car and waited for a few minutes. The police officer whose blood was sucked out of his body suddenly opened his eyes. But compared with when he was alive, the police officer's pupils seemed to have disappeared completely. Only when you look closely can you find a small hole like a pinhole. Roar. The vampire police officer roared at the man. But the man was already prepared. Before the vampire got up, he took out a large caliber revolver, and the cylinder was filled with 8 mithril rune bullets engraved with the power of sunlight. The next moment, 8 gunshots were heard, and the 8 mithril rune bullets hit the vampire's forehead, throat, and heart. According to past experience, a vampire who suffered such a degree of trauma would definitely die. But the man saw the vampire police officer's finger move, which made him slightly shocked. A bullet worth 10,000 yuan is useless. It's really difficult to deal with. I shouldn't have accepted this order. The man complained while taking out a magic grenade that stored high-intensity ultraviolet rays. While throwing the grenade, the man also put on a pair of special sunglasses. The next moment, with a bang, the high-intensity ultraviolet rays exploded in the dark night. Under the sun like ultraviolet rays, the vampire was completely turned into ash. Another pungent smell suddenly appeared in the air. The man frowned, took out a cigarette from his windbreaker pocket, lit it with a lighter, and took a deep puff. Feeling the cigarette passing through his lungs, the man suddenly felt that his soul was sublimated. He looked at the place where the vampire turned into ashes again, and murmured, "Even the soul has been sucked clean. This is not something that ordinary vampires can do." Roar at this time, waves of low roars came from the mist, which were so harsh in the ears of the man whose soul had been sublimated. He quickly spit out the cigarette in his mouth, regardless of the fact that this cigarette was not cheap. The man quickly drew a spell with his hands and recited a mysterious language of some ancient civilization. The large number of roars that were getting closer and closer in the dark night made the man's heart beat faster. When countless black shadows appeared in front of the man also finished reciting the last syllable of the spell. Bang! With a slight sound, the man disappeared in front of countless black shadows. Roar. The food that was right in front of them disappeared, and these black shadows roared angrily. Not long after, in Los Angeles, one of the largest dens of money losing in the entire lighthouse country, outside a casino, the man lit up another cigarette as if he had survived a disaster. When did vampires become so powerful? However, if they continue to develop at this rate, I'm afraid that it won't be long before millions of humans will become vampires, right? In front of this new type of vampire, humans have no ability to resist at all. Traditional mithril and runes don't work, and only high-intensity ultraviolet rays can kill them. Although he is not a good person, if all humans become vampires, then his diverse aesthetics will probably become monotonous. It's not good to deal with vampires every day. The man scratched his messy hair like a chicken coop, and the cigarette in his mouth turned into ash at a very fast speed. After quickly finishing the cigarette, the man threw it down, looked at the distant sky, and said, "Let's talk to those guys, otherwise things will become troublesome." Then, the man disappeared into the alley. In the city of National before dawn, Lina, who was sleeping soundly in bed, had a sweat on her forehead, as if something terrifying was approaching her. Bang! A black shadow broke the glass and attacked the sleeping Lina, but there was a figure next to Lina that was faster. Like a white meteor streaking across the sky, the blue on its chest was even more dazzling. In front of this figure, the vampire's body was not that hard. The sharp canine teeth pierced the skin, and even the bones as hard as steel were easily bitten to pieces. After several tearings, the vampire was bitten to pieces by this beast. And the teeth of this beast also have a kind of light energy, which is the most dangerous poison for vampires. The next second, the vampire turned into ashes, and Lina, who was sleeping soundly, woke up. So this is what made me feel dangerous during this period of time. Thank you this time, Xiaohe. Woof. Xiaohe, who had changed greatly, replied to Lina. For the glory of Olympus, Earth-Nord National City in the past 3 years, Xiaohe has become a qualified like husky, and most superpower criminals are not its enemies. With Xiaohe's personal protection, unless Letitia can invite a powerful killer like Black Adam, they will all be eaten by Xiaohe. With the help of the security system in the apartment, Lina reviewed the scene of Xiaohe just killing the vampire, and then she took out some scanning equipment and scanned the place where the vampire died. Looking at the readings on the instrument that did not belong to any known natural creatures, Lina couldn't help but frown. Another supernatural creature came to me. If it was a supernatural creature, it would not be easy for Lina to solve, especially when facing dark creatures like vampires. Thinking of this, Lina immediately thought of someone who had returned to the lighthouse country. You know, she booked the ticket for someone to return to the country. Lina took out a mobile phone, edited a text message, and sent it to Jello. At the same time, in Mount Olympus, in the temple that belonged only to Apollo, who had just recondensed his body, was very angry. Damn mortal. How dare you treat the great god of light like this? Apollo gritted his teeth in anger. Fortunately, he chose to clone himself to the lower world, otherwise he would be dead or skinned alive. After losing a lot of divine power, Apollo lost the qualification to compete for the king of Olympus in a short period of time. This made Apollo feel a sense of crisis, because he knew very well that he was not the eldest son of Zeus. If his power weakened, there would be no way to compete for the throne. As for Zeus's real eldest son, that's another topic. At this time, Apollo felt the curtain in the temple being blown. He subconsciously turned around and looked at the guy who came to his temple without any notice. Ars. What are you looking for me for? The person who suddenly appeared in Apollo's temple was Ars. The god of war, who was in a more serious crisis of dying, laughed softly twice and expressed goodwill to Apollo. Dear brother, I'm here to talk to you about something that can redeem you. Revenge. Apollo snorted twice with disdain, and raised his mouth proudly. Your current situation is worse than mine, Ars. You will only disappear before me. Do you think I will believe you? You're wrong, brother. Ars didn't care about Apollo's answer, and said kindly, I think you should listen to my advice carefully. Maybe you can make the world recognize the god of light again. Hearing this, Apollo pondered for a while, and then said to Ars, if you can't satisfy me, get out of here, Ars. Okay, brother. Ars told Apollo about the plan like a good guy. In Ars' plan, a huge disaster will happen on the Earth, and even the heroes that humans believe in will betray them. At the time, Apollo will become the savior, save the world, and gain a lot of faith. It's a very simple plan, but it aroused Apollo's doubts. Then why don't you take on the responsibility of the savior? Apollo snorted coldly. With such a good thing in front of him, Ars actually gave it to him so easily. Can Apollo believe such an obvious conspiracy? Especially when Ars accidentally tricked Apollo once. Now in Mount Olympus, only you can take on this responsibility, brother. Ars said without blushing or beating his heart. Artemis lacks ambition, Athena claims to be righteous, Hera is just a vicious woman, and I am not good enough either. As long as you can gain enough reputation at this time, then you, Apollo, will be able to ascend to the throne. The throne of Olympus. When Ars mentioned this, Apollo's eyes clearly showed a hint of heat. That was Apollo's desire for power. With enough benefits, Apollo's mouth became less strict. Ars, please speak carefully. I recently found out that a crisis is brewing in the mortal world, and most mortals are not aware of the crisis. We have the advantage of knowledge. As long as we grasp it well, Mount Olympus can reappear in the world. What do you say, brother? Ars persuaded him and said 3 sentences to make Olympus glorious again. But these words were very useful to Apollo, who once claimed to be the eldest son of Zeus and the heir to the king of Olympus. For the glory of Olympus, show your strength to the mortals of the new era. When Ars said this, Apollo's eyes were obviously struggling. Seeing this, Ars understood that his goal had been achieved. What he had to do next was to wait for Apollo to make a choice. Go synchronous orbit. In the war 3 years ago, the old watchtower fell because of the Icarus Agreement. After that, the Justice League built a new watchtower. With the experience accumulated before, the new watchtower is larger than the old one and can accommodate more people. It costs more money, but the investor doesn't care. In the living room, Batman looked at the bearded man with his legs crossed on the coffee table and asked, "Can you guarantee that what you said is correct, Constantine?" It was Constantine in front of Batman. After escaping from the pursuit of a large number of vampires, Constantine used some connections to find that Justice League and meet Batman. After telling everything he knew, Constantine seemed to feel a little more relaxed. He adjusted his sitting posture and suddenly became serious. "I swear on the name of John Constantine." Hearing this, Batman cast a distrustful look at Constantine, as if to say, "Do you, John Constantine, still have any credibility?" Batman was about to say something distrustful, but he put it back. "The Justice League will pay attention, Constantine. You'd better pay attention and be serious." Constantine said seriously, "That new kind of vampire can only be killed, there is no possibility of saving it, and it can only be killed by high-intensity light. There is no possibility of saving you." Batman said something ambiguous. Hearing this, Constantine's expression became playful. He touched his stubbled chin and said, "It seems that you, the Justice League, have a way to save those vampires. You'll know when the time comes." Batman said mysteriously, as if he already had a way to deal with it. Chapter Cosmos, Earth North National City Time, June 20, 2018. On the top floor of M78 Technology Co. Limited, in the Shah's office, the decoration has become much more luxurious, and it can even be used as a mansion. The last blow. Gomorrah attacked directly. With an excited roar, the ancient monster with crescent-shaped horns attacked Golzan in front of him. Facing Gomorrah's attack, Golzan had no intention of dodging and was stabbed directly in the chest. With a boom, Gomorrah used the super vibration wave to turn Gul'dan into pieces. Game over. With the notification sound coming from the battle terminal in his hand, the duel finally came to an end. Looking at the two monsters that turned into particles and slowly dissipated, Jello showed a satisfied expression on his face. After putting the duel terminal, which was similar to a mobile phone, back to its original position, Jello looked at the person who was dueling with him and said, "The experience is good, but it lacks tactical changes. Let's add more effect cards in the next version." Lina, what do you think? You are the creator of this game, you can do whatever you want. Lina, who played a game with Jello, smiled slightly and also put the duel terminal back to its original place. Donna, who had been watching Jello and Lina playing cards, but had no idea what was going on. She just felt that both sides kept saying a lot of words. She sounded very powerful and walked to Jello and asked, "Can we investigate those vampires now?" Jello and Donna were attracted by a text message from Lina. After getting the known information from Lina, Jello played a holographic card with Lina. Vampires are not uncommon in the American comic universe. Not only DC, but even Marvel next door often has vampires. But the vampires in Jello's memory are mostly weak. Under normal circumstances, they are not powerful and can only hide in the corner as maggots. However, this time the vampires dared to attack even public figures, and they might have been strengthened. But Jello was born to restrain dark creatures like vampires. Even if Jello put his neck in front of them, they would not dare to bite him. As long as Jello leaked a little light, the vampires would turn into ashes. That's until night. Jello glanced at the sky outside the window and said, "Vampires only appear at night." It was still afternoon, the sun was blazing, and vampires would not appear at this time. Vampires may hide in places like sewers. I have killed several in sewers before. Donna said with her arms folded in front of her chest. Vampires are also a kind of social creatures. Some vampires will gather together in the form of families, posing a threat to vampire hunters. Hearing this, Jello touched his chin and replied, "Wait for me to get a map of the sewer structure of National City." "No need, I always have it here." Lina reminded him. She walked around the desk, opened a drawer, took out a USB flash drive from it, and handed it to Jello. Before handing the USB flash drive to Jello, Lina added, "In the past 3 years, I have been worried about something like this happening. Now it seems that my worries are not wrong." "Very good, it can save me some effort." Jello took the USB flash drive from Lina. Since this was a kindness from a friend, he couldn't refuse it. After getting the USB flash drive of the sewer structure of National City, Jello used a small broken watch with multiple functions to read it. Then, the sewer structure of National City appeared in front of the three people in the form of a green holographic projection. It's a very good microtechnology. It is so small in size, but it can project such a high-precision holographic picture. Lina praised Jello's small broken watch. At this time, Jello's eyes fell on a part of the sewer structure. "Let's try here first." Half an hour later, Jello and Donna entered the sewer. Donna wrapped the two of them with a dark spell, which made their whereabouts hidden, and even vampires, dark creatures with a keen sense of smell, could hardly detect them. In the barrier formed by the dark spell, Jello's nose twitched slightly, and a very uncomfortable smell entered his nasal cavity. Even if there are no vampires here, there are other dark creatures, otherwise I wouldn't be so uncomfortable. As a member of the Ultraman family, Jello can be said to be born to be incompatible with dark creatures, especially when facing evil dark creatures that treat humans as food. Could it be that my dark power made you misjudge? Donna guessed as she moved forward. Hearing this, Jello shook his head and rejected it. "No, in addition to the attributes of power, I can also feel the breath and emotions of the power owner. This kind of smell that makes me feel sick can only be a villain who has done many evil things." As soon as the voice fell, the two came to a door. As soon as Jello put his hand on the handle, a slightly cold touch came towards him. "It's right here." Jello said affirmatively. Then, Donna used the dark spell to open the door. The iron door made a harsh sound when it opened, but the dark spell wrapped around it, so the sound would not leak out. As soon as he stepped into the door, Jello felt that something was wrong around him. Although there was no heartbeat or breathing, the evil aura was too pungent for him. Roaring, there were bursts of roars from the darkness. Seeing this, Jello's hand appeared with the sun and moon. "Donna, watch the back, don't let a vampire run away." After instructing Donna, Jello raised the sun and moon in his hand and shouted, "Cosmos." As Jello shouted, the petal-like mechanism on the top of the sun and moon opened and burst into dazzling light. Looking at this scene, Donna thought, Do you want me to help you search more carefully? In the past, vampires would die just by seeing this light, right? The dazzling white light filled the entire sewer. The darkness was stuck as soon as it came into contact with the white light, and it screamed as it retreated. This white light was the most powerful poison for them. Although it could not completely kill them, it could bring them excruciating pain. They might have been hunters in the past, but in front of Jello, they were the prey. When the white light faded, Jello had already put on the Gout armor Eclipse type. The main body of the armor was composed of red, blue and silver. The eclipse ring on the chest spread out like wings, and there was a halo like the scorching sun on the back. This was the Gout armor Eclipse type. And the mere existence of that halo was unbearable for most vampires. It's time to hunt. Jello's voice became 3 times heavier through the helmet. Bang! Jello kicked his foot and rushed towards the large group of vampires. I'll use this armor to deal with you. In the sewers of Earth North, National City, Jello was about to start a unilateral massacre of vampires when he discovered a problem. Does this vampire still have human consciousness? Jello discovered this when he approached the vampire. However, these human consciousnesses were deeply suppressed by the vampire virus. They had no chance to resist the vampire virus at ordinary times and would only show their humanity when they were dying. This is a disgusting practice, Jello thought. If an ordinary superhero encountered this situation, he would probably be depressed for a while and be seized by other vampires. This is a disgusting practice. Thinking of this, Jello wanted to eliminate the person behind it to relieve his anger. However, the Eclipse Scout armor was born for this situation. After laying a layer of telekinesis barrier around his body, the Eclipse halo behind Jello continued to expand, and golden light particles condensed in his arms. Jello crossed his arms and concentrated all his energy in his right arm. A golden vortex appeared in front of Zero's right fist. As the energy accumulated, the surging Kismian rays pierced through the telekinetic barrier and rushed towards countless vampires. So, Jello took a few tubes of blood to see if he could use it as a reference to develop an anti-vampire virus serum. After Jello took the blood of dozens of victims, he wanted to leave the sewer. Before leaving, Jello notified the NCPD and asked them to come and deal with the victims. Somewhere, a pair of eyes were staring at Jello with some unknown means. I want him dead. The owner of the eyes said so. And next to the owner of the eyes, a shrill voice sounded. But, I don't think you have the ability. The people of the Zod family never say they don't have the ability. He replied in a sonorous voice. The voice said jokingly, oh? Really? Can you blow up a planet? Hearing this, the man's chest rose and fell. He bit his lip and said firmly again. The people of the Zod family will not back down. Okay, you Kryptonians are really as stubborn as donkeys. With a very reluctant voice, a portal appeared in front of the 15-year-old Kryptonian boy who claimed to be a descendant of the Zod family. Looking back at National City, Jello and Donna were about to walk out of the sewer. They followed the water flow and prepared to leave the sewer through the water outlet. Jello was a little dissatisfied with this operation that neither caught the turtle nor the mouse. It's a pity that I didn't meet the turtle and mouse who knew ninjutsu. Let's go back and analyze the blood first to see if we can make anti-venom serum. Jello said as he walked towards the exit of the sewer. Donna, who was beside Jello, shook her head. Ding dong, the crisp sound of dripping water sounded in Jello's ears. In this moment, Jello found something wrong. Jello's eyes condensed, and a white gold sword of light appeared on his right arm. The next moment, the sword of light turned like a comet, leaving a white gold streak in the air. Ding! The sound of metal colliding was very harsh. If an outsider would definitely think that it was caused by the contact of blades, but only Jello, who personally blocked this move, knew that the other party was definitely not holding a weapon. In other words, the other party's body has properties similar to metal. In Zero's cognition, there is only one kind of cosmic person with similar properties, and he will not be cut off by his sword of light. Kryptonian. What do you want to do? Zero asked the other party. However, the Kryptonian assassin who attacked Zero just replied, "You're the only person who offended the majesty of the Zod family, I want you to die." Hearing this shout full of middle school atmosphere, Zero swung his right arm, forced the other party to retreat, and began to think about who this Kryptonian assassin was. Zod family. When the other party mentioned this, Zero remembered General Zod who was defeated by his brother. Logically speaking, the destruction of Krypton directly turned Kryptonians into an endangered species, and in Zero's memory, there was really a member of the Zod family who did not die in the explosion of Krypton. Lord Zod. Zero tentatively called out a name. Lord Zod, the child of General Zod, was also one of the survivors of the destruction of Krypton. But the other party had a complicated origin. Sometimes he was a third-generation Superboy, and sometimes he was a supervillain who wanted to destroy history. But now it seems that Lord Zod is clearly standing on the opposite side of Jello. Did the traitor tell you? Law was surprised for a moment. Although he quickly came to his senses, in Jello's eyes, this was equivalent to admitting his identity. Seeing this, Jello showed a confident smile, quietly put his left hand into his pocket, and pointed his right hand with the white gold sword of light at Law. Guess. Damn bastard, I swear on my father's name that I will definitely kill you. Law bit his back teeth, and Jello could still see the sparks bursting out when his teeth rubbed. It can be seen that Law is very angry. Jello pulled out his left hand, and the broken watch was taken off by him. Instead, he had a transformation bracelet with a blue gem as the core, a gold ragged edge, and a pair of wings on the top. The white gold sword of light dissipated on his right arm. Revenge. That depends on whether you have the ability to do it. As soon as the voice fell, the wings of the transformation bracelet on Jello's left hand opened, and blue light flashed. Then, the bracelet turned over, and the light like a tide bloomed, wrapping Jello. At this moment, Aquaman Arthur, who was far away in Atlantis handling government affairs, suddenly felt a strange feeling. It was as if he was going to lose his job. At the exit of the sewer in National City, Donna and Law felt a sacred chant in their ears, and the movements of their hands could not help but stop. At this moment, no one could stop them from witnessing the arrival of that sacred posture. And in the blue light that never dissipated, a voice came from it. I have to use this sect of armor to deal with you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Let Brother Jerry see it. Earth North Nesino City. The silver and blue metal armor glowed coldly, adding a touch of arrogance. There was a black armor with a golden edging next to the energy core on the chest. There was a crown protruding upwards on the top of the helmet, with an energy crystal inlaid in the middle. And at the waist of the armor there was a hem woven from flexible nanometal, swaying with the breeze. This set of armor was similar to the gay armor, and also had exclusive weapons, and the exclusive weapon of this set of armor was a long sword. The blade of the long sword was azure blue, and the sword guard was a hexagonal blue gem wrapped by golden wings. There was an arc-shaped guard on the hilt. The name of this sword was called. As soon as he put on the armor, Jello felt the endless ocean, as if the energy had become endless. Holding the ocean holy sword in his hand, he left a gorgeous blue sword mark in the air. You named the armor in front after Day, the original god of the earth, so the name of this blue armor is Pontos, the original god of the sea, right? Donna said beside Jello. Hearing this, Jello shook his head slightly and replied, no, the name of this armor is Aegulus armor, numbered UA-04A. Aegulus? I've never heard of this name. Donna frowned slightly and shrugged her shoulders again, but as long as you are happy. At this time, veins popped up on Law's forehead, feeling that he was ignored. Jello's contempt made him feel a little unhappy. Die. Law roared. He took a step forward, and his feet in black combat boots plunged into the sewer, immediately stirring up large patches of water. In addition to the splashes, the internal structure of the sewer was also severely damaged by Law's foot, and even the nearby areas were shaken. It seems that this kid has no intention of restraining his power at all, Jello thought secretly when he saw this scene. Dang. Facing Law's fierce attack, Zero swung his sword to block it, and a large number of sparks suddenly appeared on the sword. Feeling the power coming from the sword, Zero thought that the opponent's power was at least 10,000 tons. Kryptonians have a great advantage in physical strength. Kryptonian warriors like Lil, who are genetically adjusted for combat, can have a grip strength of 10,000 tons at the age of 15 or 16. The first generation of Ultraman among the Ultra Brothers only has a grip strength of 40,000 tons. However, fighting is not entirely determined by grip strength, not to mention that Zero is much stronger than Lil in other aspects. With the help of the martial arts accumulated in a large number of battles, Zero removed most of the power on Lil's fist, and the ocean holy sword in his hand circled around Lil's arm, leading Lil to retrieve to the outside world. What is this trick? Lil, who was entangled by the ocean holy sword, was slightly startled, but at this time, he had been brought to the outside world by Zero. Zero took Lil to an estuary in National City. The nature of National City is similar to that of a metropolis. They are both coastal cities with multiple estuaries. At this time, Zero stood on the sea. He did not use any ability, anti-gravity flight, telekinesis, armored flight system, or flying abilities. This is a small benefit brought by the light of the ocean. Splash on the opposite side of Zero, Law fell into the water like a bomb, and immediately stirred up waves of more than 10 meters. The next moment, a crack appeared on the sea surface, but ordinary people could not see clearly what made this crack. Law attacked Zero again with red eyes. His movements became wild and even began to show flaws. Zero did not take this kind of flawed action seriously, but Law's right hand glowed purple. The abilities of ordinary Kryptonians have always been simple. In addition to thermal vision, there is no other means of energy release. Interesting, this shouldn't be the power of a Kryptonian, right? Jello's head tilted slightly, and he swung the ocean holy sword in his hand slightly. A click sound suddenly rang in his ears. He saw that the ocean holy sword in his hand had been separated from each other, from a long sword to a long whip, and the golden wings on both sides of the sword guard opened. With a swing of the long whip in his hand, the tip of the sword turned into a spirit snake under the control of the electromagnetic force field, and entangled Law's right hand like a python hunting. After entangled with the opponent, Jello exerted force with his arms, completely controlled Law, and asked calmly, "Do you want to tell me where the other power in your body comes from? You don't deserve to know." Law shouted, and countless electric currents burst out of his body, and white fluff grew on his body under his Zod family's special black battlesuit, and his eyes turned into ferocious animal pupils. Electric current, purple light, more and more are exposed, just in time. "Let me, Brother Jello, take a good look at your true face." Seeing this, Zero no longer tried to control Law, and the snake-like multi-section whip was pulled away from Law. But even so, Law's battlesuit was cut by the sharp blade, revealing Law's skin. In an instant, the electric current was everywhere. Fortunately, when the two just started fighting, the surrounding marine life noticed the danger and stayed away from this place, otherwise there would be a large number of dead fish. Then, the huge amount of electric current slowly condensed together, turning into a layer of blue and white lightning armor covering Law. At this moment, Law was like Thor descending to the earth. His eyes that had turned into animal pupils were reflected in blue, and his black hair stood up under the action of the current, looking like a super saiyan from a distance. Even the race has changed. Zero couldn't help but complain when he saw this scene. At this time, Zero found that several orange claws stretched out from the back of Law's hand. In connection with the previous clues, Zero also saw what the power of Law that did not belong to Kryptonians was. The fierce beast Holopolos, a very powerful monster fragment, is also called the Lord of the Destroyer in some time and space. It is a monster that can overwhelm the Ultra Warriors. Seeing this, Jello was no longer careless. He gathered the long whip in his hand and turned it back to the original longsword posture. The gleaming light appeared on the armor and the holy sword. "Die." Roar. The last word "die" came out of Law's mouth, and then the sound Law made was only the roar of the beast. At this time, Law was like an angry thunder god, with the momentum to make the world submit to him. Compared with Law's huge momentum, Jello seemed to be much more restrained. He just silently made a gesture of holding the sword with both hands and raising the sword above his head. The tiny figure seemed so tiny in the sky full of lightning. Endless lightning rushed towards Jello, and Jello swung the long sword in his hand. The ordinary action made people feel that their heartbeats accelerated. The next moment, a blue light that completely overwhelmed the lightning appeared. Zintilogai Ocean Warrior Earth Naught, National City. Although it was the same blue light, the blue light stream wielded by Jello was more dazzling than the thunder and lightning. Even in the daytime, this brilliant light still illuminated half of the sky of National City, as if the sun was not as dazzling as them. The battle between the blue light and the thunder and lightning lasted for several minutes. When everything was calm, the outcome of the battle was completely decided. On the calm sea surface, Jello and Law, wearing Agiru armor, stood in front of each other. At this time, Law's battlesuit was broken, revealing large pieces of skin, and his skin was covered with white mane, just like a lion. The fierce beast, Holopolos, is also suitable for your violent personality. Jello put away the ocean holy sword in his hand and said in a frivolous tone. Law showed more Holopolos characteristics, and the whole person seemed to have turned into a small Holopolos. Roar. After roaring at Zero, Law, who had transformed into a four-legged beast, rushed towards Zero. The biggest feature of a monster like Holopolos is its extremely fast speed. Coupled with the average supersonic speed of Kryptonians, Law's speed at this time is enough to catch up with or even exceed most speedsters. This is also the reason why Zero temporarily abandoned his weapons. He wanted to capture Law's movements and then plan a counterattack. If he used weapons to counterattack, Zero would be a beat slower. Law, who was at a speed of dozens of Mach, jumped at high speed on the sea surface. Even ordinary citizens watching the battle from a distance could see a series of white marks on the sea surface. That was a visual residue. Law kept jumping, and the white marks he left almost formed a picture. A circle of water condensed in Zero's palm. Facing Law, who could launch a shocking attack at any time, Zero's movement seemed very slow. 1/1000th of a microsecond later, Law appeared at 2 o'clock on Jello's side. A pair of orange claws appeared on the back of his hand, and purple light and electricity flowed on the claw blades. He looked at Jello, who was moving slowly, and sneered. "Go to hell, lowly creature." Law shouted and attacked. Even a bunker that could withstand a large-yield nuclear bombing would be reduced to ashes under Law's attack. Facing the terrifying attack that was about to hit his face, Jello raised his left hand, and a barrier like a water wave blocked in front of him, separating himself from Law. Tip-tock, the water wave barrier made a crisp sound, and Law's attack was as difficult to see as ink dripping into the sea. How is this possible? Law's eyes widened. This was not only because Jello blocked his attack, but also because Law found that he could not move at all. It was a suffocating feeling, like falling into the abyss. Law felt as if he had returned to his childhood, and the feeling of weakness that he had accidentally fallen into the darkness. In reality, Jello charged his right fist, and then threw a straight punch at Law. This punch contained more than just energy and fist force. Along with this punch, there were tens of thousands of cubic meters of seawater that had been reinforced by ultra-high pressure. The pressure of these seawaters was enhanced by Jello to a level that was difficult to reach even at the deepest part of the Mariana Trench. When Law was directly subjected to these high-pressure seawaters, he also felt painful howls all over his body. Across tens of thousands of cubic meters of seawater, Jello couldn't hear Law's voice at this time. Then, he opened his right hand that was clenched into a fist, and the seawater also released Law. It wasn't over yet. With the emergence of Jello's thoughts, countless seawater turned into sharp arrows and stabbed at Law under Jello's control. Each sharp arrow contained a strong impact and explosive force, causing Law to suffer unbearably. The name of this move is called Ocean Current Explosion. However, Jello has not used kryptonite to decay Law's cells, and this level of attack cannot completely kill Law. Kryptonians are famous for their tough skin and flesh. Even Darkseid's Omega Ray can only knock out Superman. But Law has the power of whole Apollos, which will reduce the effect of kryptonite on him. If he wants to defeat him, it still depends on Zero's power. After experiencing the pain of thousands of arrows piercing his heart, Law's anger also reached its peak. "You want to kill me with this level of attack? Ridiculous." As Law shouted, countless electric currents burst out of his body, shattering the water arrows that had not yet landed on him. Then, Law's body began to grow, and in the blink of an eye it was 10 meters long. A complete first stage. No, it seems to be at least the second stage now. Seeing that Law began to possess the body of whole Apollos, Zero also saw the degree of Law's development of the concept fragments. Law was not a first stage that was spawned, but a fully developed second stage, with the original power, and even a stronger enemy than the original whole Apollos. Seeing that Law's size had reached 20 meters, Jello's fighting spirit was also aroused. 3 years had passed since he had fought a giant battle, which made Jello very curious about his giant fighting power. How far could he go? Jello had been thinking about this question, and only by fighting could he get the answer. "Donna, evacuate the people around a little, I'm going to show my strength today," Jello said to Donna while removing the Agilama and responding to her with telepathy. Donna in the distance also noticed the change in the battle, and in order to let Jello fight with peace of mind, she replied, "Okay, I believe you can defeat that guy, and the task of evacuating the people will be left to me then." Donna went to evacuate the people. And looking at the size of whole Apollos, which had reached 30 meters, Jello, who took off his armor, raised his right hand high. The sleeves slid down with Jello's movement, revealing the transformation bracelet composed of black, gold and red. Roar. At this time, the whole Apollos transformed Law finally reached 44 meters. With the help of the Kryptonian's power, he hovered on the sea and roared at Zero. Law's roar stirred up layers of huge waves. If these waves were allowed to go away, I'm afraid that innocent people on the beach would suffer. But with the appearance of the white light, all the dangers disappeared. I saw a blue and white giant standing on the sea. He had a smooth figure, and there were antenna-like horns on both sides of his head with a quiet beauty. There was a prismatic crystal on his forehead, and his white eyes looked forward, with a smile on his lips. On the chest of the giant was a set of armor. 2 red crystals protected the prismatic color timer. There was also a white crystal under the timer, and on both sides of the shoulders were slightly large white crystal shoulder armor. This set of armor was given by Noah and was called Holy Armor of the Oath. It was a top-level defensive artifact. The giant with Nexus armor on his arms took a stance and challenged his enemy. And the giant's name is Ultraman Trigapaya, the ocean hero. Chapter Dark Thunderstorm Energy. On the sea, the giant of light and the Tyrannosaurus stared at each other. Waves splashed on the feet of the 2 giant figures, and the sea breeze swept across the face of the giant of light, blowing Tyrannosaurus's white mane. Roar. Law, who had transformed into Tyrannosaurus Holopolos, roared and ran on the sea. The next moment, Law came to Zero, who had transformed into Ultraman Trigapaya Ocean Hero. In an instant, Law's figure switched from walking on 4 legs to standing on 2 legs. His 2 hind legs were more powerful than before, and the claws on his arms separated to become claws that could cut everything. Purple light flashed on the claws, and appeared in front of Zero like 6 crescent moons. Seeing this, Zero raised his left arm and used the Nexus armament on his left arm to resist. The claws and Nexus armament collided, and the power of the Kryptonian plus the power of Holopolos, the combination of the 2 made Law's power extremely terrifying. Although he was not as strong as the Kryptonians, Zero used the light of the ocean to strengthen his left arm, and used the Nexus armament to absorb the energy from Law's claw blade. In an instant, the purple energy on Law's claw blade was completely absorbed by Zero's Nexus armament. The Nexus armament on Zero's left arm glowed with purple light, and then Law saw with his own eyes that the purple energy that originally belonged to him turned into a ball of blue-white light energy. Giza ray conversion was originally one of Ultraman Nexus's skills, and Zero, who chose Ultraman Nexus as his evolution template, also knew this skill. This skill can even absorb and convert the dark power that is opposite to Ultraman, not to mention the biological energy of the fierce beast. Ah! Zero let out a war cry, and before Law escaped from his attack range, he suddenly punched out with his left fist condensed with blue-white light energy. Bang! The light energy punch landed on Law, entered his body through Law's skin, and then countless explosions occurred in his body. Ah! Law wailed in pain. It was because he had thick skin and flesh. If it were any other small monster, he would have been killed by this punch. Light energy explosion, a small skill developed by Jello, is similar to the explosive punch he used before, but the effect is better, the damage is greater, the consumption is less, and there are other extended techniques. After repelling Law with 1 blow, Jello took advantage of the victory and pursued him. He quickly came in front of Law and swept his calf with a low kick, causing Law to fall to the sea with an unstable center of gravity. Roar. Suddenly, Law roared and raised his head as if he felt something. Being distracted in battle is a taboo, but why did Law do this? As soon as this thought came to mind, Jello felt something coming towards him. Boom! A thunder suddenly sounded in the originally clear and cloudless sky, and the next moment, a purple-black lightning fell from the sky and was about to fall on Law. Dark thunderstorm energy. Knowing that this energy would strengthen the monster, Jello prepared to interrupt it. Jello threw out a blue-white 8-point light wheel, which flew towards Law at a very fast speed. However, the space around Law had been distorted by the dark thunderstorm energy in advance. When the 8-point light wheel approached Law, it was pulled by gravity from multiple directions and slowly turned into fragments with a crack. How the eerie laughter seemed to be right beside his ears. Jello, who heard this laughter, immediately became alert. The appearance of this sound almost represents the birth of Geyser, and Geyser is the most difficult enemy. If there is no cosmic needle to fight against it, then only miracle can come. But even if Jello stretched the perception range to the maximum, he did not find the existence of Geyser. At this time, Law also completed his transformation and evolution. Roar. Another roar, with Law as the center, the sea surface with a radius of 1 kilometer began to shake violently, looking like a small tsunami from a distance. At this time, Law was surrounded by a kind of black lightning. His orange claws and exoskeleton turned black iron, and his mane turned black-purple. An ominous aura lingered around him. Dark thunderstorm energy, a strange energy generated by Geyser. The most intuitive ability is to distort time and space and strengthen monsters. With the blessing of dark thunderstorm energy, Law, whose power surged, attacked Jello again. Law's speed is now nearly twice as fast as before, and the best high-speed camera on the Earth can only capture a black smear. Seeing this, Jello quickly condensed a sword of light on the Nectar Sweaten on his right arm, and used his trained combat instinct to swing the sword to resist. Dang! Fierce sparks surged on the sword of light, and Law, who was amplified in all aspects, did not want to wrestle with Jello. He jumped back with the thrust of the sword of light, and black and purple blade-like energy appeared around him. Jello, who knew about monsters like Holopolos, knew that the other party was going to go all out, so Jello opened his arms, and white light appeared on his chest armor, gradually covering all the armor and the crystal timer. The next moment, countless black and purple light sickles formed a tornado, whistling towards Jello. At this time, Jello had also accumulated energy, and a strong golden light shot out from his chest, colliding with the light sickle tornado. The golden light ball has the ability to decompose microscopically, and the black and purple light sickle tornado is difficult to resist. After 2 or 3 seconds, it fell into a disadvantage. Seeing this, Law couldn't help but clench his back teeth. Why? Why? Why can't I kill him even though I've tried so hard? I won't give up. Don't be unwilling, kid, I suggest you run away quickly, otherwise you'll have to accompany your father, and your revenge plan will be completely in vain. The shrill voice appeared in Law's ears again. Hearing this, Law gritted his teeth unwillingly and looked back at the light side storm that was being crushed by the golden light. If this situation continued, Law would have no choice but to be defeated. So, driven by the voice in his heart that said, "I'm the last hope of Krypton, I cannot fall here," Law chose to escape. The next moment, the golden light completely overwhelmed the light side storm and destroyed it with an absolute crushing force. With a loud bang of boom, the purple-black light side storm completely dissipated on the sea. Along with the purple-black light side storm, Law's figure also disappeared. Looking at the direction where Law fled, Jello thought, did he escape? But in Jello's telekinetic perception, a purple-black light was as bright as a searchlight at night. Chapter Joker Resbag and Earth North National City on the sea, the figure of the giant of light slowly turned into light particles and dissipated. Not long after, the huge giant of light disappeared from the eyes of the world. A moment later, Jello appeared on the nearby beach. He closed his eyes slightly and concentrated on sensing the tracking signal he left on Law. When he fought with Law before, Jello had thought about what to do when Law ran away too fast and he couldn't catch up. Now it seems that Jello's behavior was right. After tracking to a general location, Jello heard a voice. "Uncle Clown can't let you ruin the game. A kid like you who doesn't follow the rules of the game must be disliked. Ha 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 ha." A sharp and piercing laughter with a magical power sounded in Jello's ears. Jello, who felt that his spirit was polluted, opened his eyes, his handsome face became solemn, and he recited a word. "Joker, the Joker, Batman's #1 enemy, has a mysterious origin and is suspected to be immortal. He was once burned into ashes under Batman's confirmation, but a new Joker appeared a few months later." Jello even suspected that the Joker had become a kind of conceptual existence. As long as certain conditions exist, the Joker can be resurrected, just like taffy that is hard to chew and sticks to teeth. Although the tracking signal of Law is lost, Jello can also be sure that Greiser, the Joker, Law, and even the recent vampire incident are inseparable from the Joker. "We have to let the Justice League know about this," Jello whispered. After planning to notify the Justice League, Jello contacted Onoya. "Do you have any instructions?" Onoya's voice sounded in Jello's mind. "Help me contact the Justice League and tell them that I have found useful information." Zero told Onoya. "I will send a few tubes of blood back later, remember to analyze them." "Okay, notify the Justice League and analyze the infected blood." "Do you have any other orders?" Onoya was like the best housekeeper, and he sorted out the to-do list for Zero. "Conduct the final debugging of the Max armor. I urgently need a set of armor that can perform super high-speed combat." Zero thought for a while and said again. "Recently, there are more and more speedsters in Central City, and as time goes by, these speedsters have developed a lot of practical technologies, which makes their dangers soar. Zero believes that he will face the speedsters sooner or later, but he himself cannot always maintain the Ultraman posture, so a set of armor that can perform super high-speed combat to deal with the speedsters has become Zero's urgent need. In order to meet this demand, Zero created the Max armor based on Max Ultraman. High-speed combat requires a lot of test data support, which is why Zero still keeps the armor in the ultralight for testing even if the Max armor is completed early. Since the Max armor needs to fight at high speed, the armor structure must remain integrated and cannot have the technology of switching forms. In addition, Max Ultraman himself does not have the ability to switch forms, so Zero did not have the technology of switching forms to the Max armor. This makes the Max armor more suitable to be classified as the US series than the UA series. I understand, Zero. The Max armor will complete the test in the shortest time. Oa replied. After talking to Oa, Donna also found Zero. Thinking of the dark thunderstorm energy that appeared in the previous battle, Donna couldn't help but feel flustered. Zero, is that the lightning just now the dark thunderstorm energy you told me about before? Even Gue, who was once the emperor of the universe, thought that the dark thunderstorm energy was a good thing and could be used to help the three brothers and sisters rule the universe. So Donna, who was also a user of dark power, felt its presence at a very close distance. She also felt her heart beating wildly. Yes. Jello nodded, looked up at the sky, and said slowly, and the enemy who created this energy has already appeared. I can see that a tough battle is waiting for us. Even if you know its weaknesses, Greiser is still a difficult enemy. Is that so? Hearing this, Donna frowned slightly. At this time, a flash of lightning appeared in front of the two. Long time no see, Ultraman, Troya. Flash, one of the elders of the Justice League, appeared in front of the two. Flash looked at the two young heroes who had not seen each other for a while, with a smile on his face, and he was calm and confident at all times. Long time no see, Flash. Jello and Donna replied. I heard from Batman that you found something. Flash looked at Jello and asked. Can you tell me about it? It's not appropriate to talk too much here, let's go to the watchtower first. Jello glanced around and said. Okay, then I'll take you to the watchtower. Speaking of which, you haven't been to the newly built watchtower yet. In fact, we haven't been to the old one either. Donna shook her head and said. It's okay, isn't this a chance to go? The Flash said with a laugh, and then took the two to the watchtower. At the same time, in an abandoned factory, the ragged Law was lying on the ground, his black eyes full of dissatisfaction. He clenched his fists and hit the floor with all his strength. Boom, boom, boom. Every time a punch landed on the floor, it made a loud noise and caused waves of shaking inside the abandoned factory, greatly reducing the survival period of this abandoned factory. In a dim corner, the other three villains recruited by the Joker watched this scene coldly. But Law's strength in hitting the ground was too great, causing dust to fall from time to time, so they had to use their abilities to barely avoid the dust from falling on them. Annoying little devil. Star Blue Stone, who covered himself with a layer of purple light, spoke with a tone full of irritation and disdain. Daniel, who was moving at high speed in the space, said, how come this kid is the same as that guy in Metropolis? Is his strength a little bit beyond his normal level? He's not at his strongest yet. You'll understand later. Oz, who seemed to have no ability at all, said faintly, as if he knew Law very well. Damn it. Boom. As Oz's voice just fell, Law also threw the heaviest punch, and the structure of the entire abandoned factory was greatly challenged. When all the dust settled, the clown in a purple tuxedo also walked out of the dark. He squatted in front of Law and comforted Law with a pretentious and gentle voice. Oh, my dear Law baby, how about we get our place back together next time? Let's trample those high-handed guys into the mud together. Stand on their corpses and have a party. Ha 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 ha. Constantine's method. Earthnaut Go synchronous orbit standing in the new watchtower, looking at the blue planet below. Zero, who was thinking about something, turned around and asked the Flash. How is your analysis going? Not bad. The Flash nodded, with a hint of joy in his tone. The blood you brought is very helpful to us. I think we should have antidote serum in the near future. It really deserves to be the Justice League, Zero thought secretly in his heart. However, just when the Flash thought that this problem was not a big deal, Batman, who walked with the wind, suddenly broke in. Things are not just what we see. Batman said in a low voice, and told everyone a not-so-good news. The blood collected by Ultraman is only from people who were infected once, and the situation of those who were infected twice will be much worse. What do you mean? The Flash asked curiously. The first infected are infected by some kind of virus carrier. After being infected, they will become monsters similar to vampires. They can return to normal as long as they clear the virus in their bodies. But the second infected are different. They are sucked dry by the first infected and then injected with the virus. I believe you should understand the fate of ordinary humans after being drained of blood, right? Batman's low voice made Flash's heart skip a beat. It was just Batman's retelling, but Flash Barry felt the insidiousness of the person behind it. If the first infected can still be saved, then the second infected are forced to become zombies, and corpses are lifeless. Jello clenched his fists slightly, and a strange flash flashed in his red eyes. It seems that the Joker is determined to make things bigger this time. The Joker? Is he really related to this matter? The Flash, who didn't know much about the Joker, frowned. Hearing this, Batman nodded slightly. The Joker has created similar incidents in Gotham before, but this time, he went too far. According to reports from superheroes in different cities, similar cases have occurred in Star City, Central City, National City and other cities, and the scope may have expanded to the entire Lighthouse country. If it is not curbed, the scope of victims may be global. To cause such a large-scale spread of a vicious virus, the Joker is definitely not alone. We must be prepared to face an army of supervillains. Batman whispered. He pondered for a moment, and then said, and we also need to deal with virus-infected people across the country. But in this case, we can't concentrate our efforts in Metropolis to ensure the safety of Superman's wife and children. Flash said with a little worry. Although it is not difficult to deal with virus-infected people across the country with the efficiency of the Justice League, as long as there is a moment of vacancy, they may be caught by the Joker. The Joker is dispersing the power of the Justice League. Jello and Batman are clearly aware of this. After thinking for a while, Jello took the initiative to propose to the two elders, I will find the source of the virus behind it. If the source is contained, the situation will be much better. But what are you going to do? Batman glanced at Jello. The infected are all over the country. And you will also be in danger. The Flash continued. But it's not that difficult for me. A confident voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this, Jello, Donna, Flash, and Batman looked at the guy who said this. A man wearing a khaki windbreaker, with a scruffy beard and a cigarette in his right hand stood at the door. As soon as he saw this man, Jello frowned. John Constantine, one of the humans Jello least wanted to meet in the DC universe. However, Jello's concern for Constantine was not similar to the Tidalibald and Bagman, but a tingling pain from behind. Constantine was no longer a man who could eat both men and women in the timeline Jello knew. He could even kill species without human form. It was too scary. Who knows if he would think that kind of thing about me? After raising his eyebrows at Jello, which made Donna unhappy, Constantine took a deep puff of his cigarette, turning the room into a fairyland filled with smoke, and then he told her his method. I have studied a lot of things in the past 2 days. As long as there is a strong enough dark force to cooperate, I can locate the opponent's position, but well, halfway through his words, Constantine's calloused hands began to rub, and a look of joy appeared in his originally turbid eyes. This is going to cost more money, Jello thought tacitly, while holding Donna's shoulders and talking to her telepathically. Don't worry about him. Nothing, just a little unhappy. Donna replied telepathically. Money is never a problem. Batman folded his hands in front of his chest. As the only descendant of the famous Wabanchim family, Batman is not short of money. Even if he squanders 10 times more, he can't spend all that money. No, I don't just want money this time. Constantine shook his head. He looked at Batman, and said loudly, I want to be a member of the Justice League. This, Flash's eyes showed a strange look. He had heard of Constantine's name, which was even worse than a stinky rag. Is it really a good thing to let such a person join the Justice League? You don't make too many enemies, so you want to join the Justice League to avoid the limelight. Jello guessed on the side. The number of contracts signed by Constantine is probably more than the number of pages in the World Knowledge Encyclopedia. The demons and devils in hell are waiting for him to die, so that they have a reason to fight a hell war. From this point of view, Constantine is also a great man of his generation, who can offend more than 3 digits of demons at the same time. Bingo, you're right, little Cartilly, people always have to find a way out for themselves, isn't it? Constantine smiled brightly, but it was not good looking at all, and even a little disgusting. Hearing this, the Flash set his sights on Batman, but Batman just whispered back. No problem, but you will not be assigned to the official team of the Justice League, you will be assigned to the subsidiary team of the Justice League. It's almost the same as I thought. Constantine scratched his head, and dandruff fell like snow. But the difference is not big. Transfer some more money to my account and I will help you. Zero, who had thought of something, did not stop Batman and Constantine. He just said from the side, then let's get started early. The sooner we solve the enemy, the sooner we can feel at ease. Zinjahoziyama. Future type Earth not go synchronous orbit. Half an hour later in the observation tower, after having enough power, Constantine set up the magic circle at the fastest speed. Looking at the strange and smelly spell materials in the magic circle, the Flash frowned. Hiss, will this really work? Fortunately, everyone present has a way to deal with it, otherwise ordinary superheroes can't handle this smell. Don't worry, since I said it's okay, it must be okay. Constantine, who had 2 nasal plugs inserted into himself, said with a heavy nasal voice. By the way, prepare the dark energy, so that there is enough energy to drive development. Although Jello suspected that Constantine didn't want to work hard, he didn't expose Constantine. Jello looked at Donna and asked, "You come or I? Let me do it, you save some energy." Donna moved her wrist, and some dark spells were already jumping on her 5 fingers. After 3 years, Donna has become more and more adept at controlling dark spells. Seeing the dark spells appear on Donna's fingertips, Constantine couldn't help but take a closer look. Black magic that has never been seen before. It seems that there is no school on Earth that studies similar magic, right? Constantine, who can be regarded as a magic master in this era, felt that he could not see the origin of the dark spell. Although he was curious about the origin of the dark spell, Constantine also knew that this kind of black magic must have certain flaws, so he was not very interested. Constantine even cared about Jello more, feeling the chill from Constantine. Jello's back was covered with goosebumps, and he hurriedly urged, "Hurry up and start, we don't have much time left." "I'll add another 100,000. Batman also said. Okay. With the blessing of money, Constantine immediately rubbed his hands. He was seen chanting spells, and his 5 fingers of both hands flew up and down. After a dazzling operation, he shouted, "Hurry up and inject dark energy into the magic circle, otherwise there is no way to continue." Hearing this, Donna cast a dark spell on the magic circle. With the blessing of dark spells, the already slightly weird magic circle suddenly became more gloomy, and even Batman frowned. This dark power is still spreading outward, and even enveloped the entire watchtower at one point. If a magic master looked up at the sky at this time, he might think that the devil had evolved to the point of flying a satellite to the sky. At the same time, in the abandoned factory used as a base by the villains. "What's going on?" Daniel said, looking at the circle of magic circles in the center of the factory. Daniel, who was educated in materialism since childhood and only came into contact with superpowers when he grew up, naturally couldn't recognize magic. Law and Star Sapphire, who grew up on Krypton, didn't know either, but the old god Oz, who had lived for thousands of years, must have understood. Someone is casting a teleportation magic circle to send someone here. It seems that this place can't be used as a base. Although he is not a magic god, Oz can still see some clues. But what if Oz is asked to counter it? Sorry, that can't be done. Looking at the circle, Law seemed to see an illusory figure. It's that guy. Although it was just a blurry figure, Law was still so angry that he gritted his teeth. Oh, it seems that we had guests coming. The Joker came out with an awakening combat device in his hand. But he didn't seem to have the intention to fight, really. They didn't even send Batman to find me. Forget it, I deliberately sold information, hoping that Batman would come. The Joker said a bunch of words that his teammates couldn't understand, and turned away while saying, "If you want to fight that guy, you can stay and fight him, but I'm not interested." After that, the Joker turned and left, and Oz and Law followed closely behind, leaving only Daniel and Star Sapphire who didn't believe in evil. "I'm a speedster, I can run if I want to, why are you staying?" Daniel asked Star Sapphire. The arrogant Star Sapphire didn't want to answer. She silently stared at the teleportation circle until the figure in the circle became clear. Boom. The next moment, accompanied by a loud noise, a figure in metal armor walked out of the magic circle. "Are you the only 2 left here?" Jello, wearing Eclipse House armor, asked the 2. Seeing that it was not the person he wanted, Star Sapphire lowered his voice and asked in a slightly threatening tone, "Where is Hal Jordan? Let him come out to see me." Hal Jordan, purple light, the keywords emerged in his mind, and Jello instantly remembered the other party's identity. Star Sapphire, Carol Fear is Hal Jordan's lover, but because she holds the purple lantern ring of love, she has fallen into madness. Jello made a quick calculation and found that this woman is still half a friendly unit and cannot be killed directly. However, Jello was very interested in the purple lantern ring on Star Sapphire. The emotional spectrum involves the deepest secrets of the DC universe and is a treasure that cannot be missed. After deciding to intercept the purple lantern ring, Jello looked at another person. This person is wearing a black and red tights with a lightning symbol on his chest. It is likely that he is a speedster. When he thought of the speedster's super speed, Jello's eyes became hot. This is also a good thing, Jello thought so. At this time, Star Sapphire and Daniel only felt that each other's eyes were very strange, just like a hunter looking at prey. Let Hal Jordan come out. Star Sapphire shouted, and the purple lantern ring in his hand burst into purple light, creating purple crystals and attacking Jello. Daniel also went to the super speed state, turning into lightning and attacking Jello. It's not just them who attack Jello. There are also groups of secondary infected people who appear. These zombies don't care about their lives. They keep roaring and attacking Jello. For a time, scarlet lightning entangled, purple crystals fell, and countless blood demons came like a tide. Just right, let's use the secret weapon of Gout Armor for a little bit, future mode activate. With Jello's order, Gout Armor received the order. Click, click, click. The Gaussian armor kept changing with the sound of metal. The eclipse ring on the chest changed its structure, and the edges continued to release golden light. A golden halo also appeared above the energy core. The armor with a power of 120% released golden armor in many places, which greatly increased the output of the armor. This is the Gaussian armor, the future type. When the armor on his body completely changed to the future type, Jello also moved among the tide of enemies. In the eyes of Daniel, who turned into scarlet lightning, Jello's movements were like a demon. He could deal with several vampires at the same time with just a wave of his hand. With one punch, he smashed the purple crystals projected by the star blue stone. Ovzankilanos called him Little Gatanger Earthnaut Crack. The purple crystal shattered under Jello's heavy punch, and countless fragments fell in an instant. It was obviously just a projection of emotions, but it had properties similar to entities. What a strange idealistic ability, Jello sighed slightly in his heart, but he did not hesitate to move his hands. He threw out an 8-point light wheel with his left hand. As the natural enemy of vampires, the 8-point light wheel suddenly entered the no man's land. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen vampires died. What a terrible power. Daniel, who entered the super speed state, couldn't help but marvel. At this moment, Daniel suddenly felt a strange feeling. He looked carefully and found that Jello was staring at him. But he was clearly in the super speed state. How did this guy see him? Could it be that his eyes were better than a high-speed camera? Daniel was not wrong. Jello could indeed capture his movements. But the speed of the speedster was so fast that Jello could only contact Oa secretly. Oa, a speedster has appeared here, ready to send max armor. Okay, but I need some time to determine your location. There is spatial interference in your current position, and I can't lock it, Oa replied. It's just a matter of time, which is not difficult for Jello. But before that, Jello needs to solve a problem. Why doesn't Hal Jordan come to see me? Star Sapphire rushed forward at this time, revealing a strong resentment in his words. It can be seen that among the 7 colors in the emotional spectrum, the red light anger and the purple light love are the most extreme, and the wearer is very likely to be affected mentally. The Guardians of the Green Lantern Corps may have a way, but Jello has no channel to contact them, not to mention that the Guardians probably won't tell Jello. The group of little blue men are notoriously stubborn. So the best option at the moment is to take away the ring, but there are a lot of vampires here now. If Star Sapphire's ring is taken away and she turns back into an ordinary human, she will probably be torn to pieces by the hungry vampires. Looks like we have to clear the field first. Jello stretched out his left hand, and the huge force that could overturn a cruise ship made Star Sapphire unable to move. With the protection of the purple lantern ring, the telekinetic shock did not work on Star Sapphire, so Jello chose the simplest way to calm her down. And that way is the rocket hammer. Bang! Like the sound of a bullet being fired, Jello hit Star Sapphire's forehead with a heavy hammer. At that moment, Star Sapphire only felt a dump truck rushing towards her, and then her eyes went black and she fainted. After temporarily calming Star Sapphire, Jello let go of her hand. With the protection of the purple lantern ring, the vampire could not get close to her. At this time, Jello also had room to use his fists and feet. The energy core of the Gout Armor future type lit up with blue light, and all modules were running at 200% power. The outer layer of the armor that could not withstand such terrible energy even had electric sparks. After transferring all the energy to his right arm, Jello poured out the blue light with a straight punch. Gauss Assault. In terms of power alone, this move is several times more powerful than the Cosmian Ray, but after launching the Gauss Assault, the Gauss armor will be unable to wend to the future form in a short period of time due to the problem of overload. This is a similar problem to the Dyna armor, but someone with multiple sets of armor doesn't care. At most he can just change one. What kind of light is this? Daniel, who is still a human, is naturally not within the damage range of Gauss Assault, but he is still full of fear of Gauss Assault with evil intentions. Boom boom boom. Daniel's heartbeat seemed to be driven by the dazzling blue light. The faster his heartbeat, the more dazzling the blue light. It was not until the blue light filled the entire dilapidated factory and all the vampires were screaming in pain that Daniel realized how lucky he was. Countless vampires turned into ashes under the blue light and dissipated, and there was a burning smell in the air from time to time. Feeling the ashes with residual heat falling on his face, Daniel looked at the scene of ashes covering the ground, and his heart was full of disbelief. At this time, Daniel exited the super speed state. He stared at Jello in a daze, and fell into intoxication at the godlike figure. It would be great if I also had this kind of power. As soon as this thought came to mind, Daniel began to fantasize uncontrollably. But at this moment, Daniel remembered one thing: this group of vampires has a boss. Roar. A faint roar came from the air again. And a little black fog appeared in the abandoned factory that was once full of light. Not only inside the factory, but also outside the factory, dozens of square kilometers with the factory as the core were shrouded in black clouds. It was a clear sky a few minutes ago, but it was shrouded in darkness in the blink of an eye. Anyone would feel uneasy. It seems that I have triggered the key clue of the boss, Jello said while removing the Gauss armor. After launching the Gauss Assault, the output of the Gauss armor that has been transformed into the Eclipse type will decrease. So, Jello asked Oil to take over the Gauss armor Eclipse type, and a ritual weapon like a dagger appeared in his palm. Whoa! A faint whistling sound came from above Jello's head, and the next moment, a shadow-like claw attacked Jello at an absolutely impossible angle. There was no vibration in the air, and this attack was extremely difficult to be detected by the auditory organs. But Jello noticed that the opponent's method was a big special, and his eyes glanced back inadvertently. There it was. Then, the claw was only 10 centimeters away from Jello, but Jello's figure almost turned into a ray of light. His body moved slightly, and the claw passed by Jello's body. After dodging the enemy's sneak attack, Jello did not stop, and his right hand instinctively threw a light bullet at the enemy. Because of inertia, the unknown enemy had no time to dodge, and the live white light bullet left a wisp of green smoke on his back. Roar. The enemy wrapped in darkness let out a roar, and Jello could even hear its pain. After solving the problem of inertia, the figure landed far away from Jello. Blood-red eyes, sharp fangs, wings that can stir up tornadoes, all these features tell the identity of the monster in front of Jello. The blood-sucking monster, Shuranos, can release black fog and create followers just like Gatamjek, so it is called Little Gatamjek. After sensing the other party for a while, Jello found that there was no operator in Shuranos' body, that is, it was a pure monster. Seeing this, Jello moved his neck and a smile appeared on his face. He saw that he put the dagger-like ritual weapon to his waist, and then suddenly pulled out the dagger. A silver light immediately enveloped him, and a red light appeared between the silver light. In the end, the red light even overwhelmed the silver light. When the light dissipated, Jello had already changed into a new set of armor. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novel, as there you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Portable speaker. Inside the abandoned factory on Earth Naught, when the red light faded, Zero had already put on a new set of armor. The main body of the armor is mainly red and silver, with black lines in some areas, making the armor look more streamlined. The unique helmet design stands out even among many Ultra armors, and below the energy core on the chest, there is a red crystal structure like a flying bird. In addition to these, the composite armament Nexus armament on the arms of the armor is the most conspicuous. This set of armor is numbered UA-06N, codenamed Nexus. The manufacturing time of Nexus armor is extremely long, consuming a total of 2 years, and even the screws are different from other armors. It is an armor made by Zero based on the design concept of completely fitting oneself, and it is currently the most suitable armor for Zero. The optical eyepiece of the armor glowed, and energy began to flow inside the armor, and the auxiliary system completed the inspection within 1 second. If other armor is an extension of Zero's limbs and an extension of the flesh, then Nexus armor is an extension of the soul. However, play me a little song facing the Hiranos, who can be called Little Gatame Jack. Jello, who was not panicked at all, even asked Oyo to play some background music. Okay. Oyo responded, and then a familiar song sounded in Jello's ears. Because of a little thing, you start to be complacent, throw all the important things aside, torture yourself like a prisoner, and now say goodbye to yourself like this transformation. The familiar rock melody sounded in Jello's ears, and he even beat the rhythm with his toes. The Hiranos naturally couldn't appreciate this human music. Daniel, who was standing next to him, was almost blinded by this operation. He stuffed a set of surround sound speakers into the armor. The lyrics of this song here were in Japanese. Daniel, who has not learned other languages, naturally can't understand it, but it doesn't prevent him from thinking that the melody is very rhythmic. Raw. Although he didn't understand what Zero meant by his behavior, Hiranos felt that the other party was looking down on him. He immediately wrapped himself in black mist, and his hairy legs slightly bent, and suddenly burst out at a very fast speed. Hiranos moved silently, and when it broke through the sound barrier, it did not cause even a decibel of noise, which made its movements very mysterious. But this was useless to Zero. After all, Zero himself had supervision that could capture the fluctuations of life energy, and the spiritual vision of the silent bracelet, which made Hiranos' movements traceable in Zero's eyes. After the Hiranos, Zero stepped forward with his right foot, and the armor generated a phantom stance, so that Zero would not cause much impact on the outside world when breaking the sound barrier. Within microseconds, Zero and Hiranos started a high-speed battle. Both sides were so fast that they looked at the surrounding things as if time had stopped. In the high-speed world, Hiranos stretched out its claws that could easily tear apart high-carbon steel blocks, and stabbed at Zero at a very fast speed. The claws also carried vampire viruses. Dang! Seeing this, Jello raised his right arm and used the Nexus armed forces to block. Instantly, sparks flew everywhere, and a layer of the nano-coating cover in the exterior of the Nexus armed forces was scraped off. Even the nano-coating could be scraped off. It seems that he is quite powerful, Jello thought to himself, and the tail of the Nexus armed forces on his right arm sprayed a radiance like a solar flare. Ah! Jello let out a war cry, and his sun-like right fist blasted towards the Hiranos. Light is the Hiranos' natural enemy, and so are all lights. Therefore, when the flames were sprayed from the tail of the Nexus armed forces, the Hiranos obviously felt uncomfortable. In order to fight against Jello's light, the Hiranos attracted more darkness to wrap himself, and with the blessing of these darkness, the Hiranos also became stronger, and even had the strength to fight Jello. Boom! The next moment, the two heavy fists collided, and the violent shockwave directly shattered some pillars inside the factory, and set off a gust of wind, raising a large amount of smoke and dust. This attack made Daniel run away. Although he wanted to sit down and watch the battle, his life was more important. If you don't take this step, you will never be able to move forward. Jello and the armor's built-in speakers sang together, and the Nexus armament on his arm shone brighter. Facing Jello's light, the darkness brought by the Hiranos seemed to be insignificant, and the fate was to be defeated. Under the heavy pressure, the Hiranos' arm bones, which were harder than steel, cracked. After another second, the Hiranos no longer had the strength to compete with Jello, and immediately fell backwards like a rag. While flying backwards, the Hiranos was still desperately adjusting his posture. Seeing this, Jello quickly chased after him. He was at full speed and arrived in front of the Hiranos in almost an instant. He gathered strength with his fists, and his target was the Hiranos' wings. For an enemy like the Hiranos who flies with wings, the most direct way is to tear the wings apart so that it can never fly again. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. At this time, surprise flashed in the blood-red eyes of Cyrano's, and then, a circle of ring-shaped ripples were released from his eyes. Hypnotic light. Zero, who had just met Cyrano's eyes, immediately realized that this was this disgusting skill. Ultraman Tiger would suffer when facing this move for the first time, and was even suppressed by Cyrano's for a while afterwards. But now Cyrano's is not in his prime, and the effect of this move is limited. Zero was not affected, but instead punched Cyrano's wings with both fists. Hiss, hiss, as soon as it touched Zero's flaming fists, Cyrano's wings became tattered like a fishing net in the first time. Ah! Cyrano's wailed in pain. The wings are important organs of Cyrano's, connected to many nerves. It is a very painful thing for it to be blown to pieces by Zero. He doesn't have the ability to grow to giant size now. This is your only chance. The clown's voice sounded in the ears of the Huranos, giving the Huranos who was about to lose a hint. With the clown's hint, the Huranos, who suddenly understood something, roared, and dozens of lightning bolts that were not naturally generated at all struck Jello. These lightning bolts were extremely powerful. The average volt of natural lightning was 30,000 volts, and the weakest of these lightning bolts was dozens of times higher than the average. Facing these lightning bolts, Jello paused for a moment and spent some time dodging the lightning bolts. At this time, the Huranos also completed the giantization. The giant monster, which was 53 meters tall and weighed 46,000 tons, looked at Jello, and the resentment of being suppressed and beaten by Jello was also released. If you have the courage to say this is right. Facing the giant blood-sucking monster, the Huranos, Jello, who has no ability to transform, was singing a song, and a ball of red light appeared on his right arm. After writing this chapter, my brain was not normal, and I got the chapter number wrong. Chapter card bug time is up. Earthnaut has only one chance to become giant within 24 hours, and each time it lasts only 3 minutes. This is common sense for concept fragment holders and concept fragment extensions. But Zero, who possesses both the light of the earth and the light of the ocean, has a different understanding. In the stories of Senior Gay and Senior Agiru, the two rays of light can be superimposed on each other and can also become independent Ultramen. So Zero continued to extend this idea and developed the Ocean Hero based on the light of the ocean. The Ocean Hero is an Ultraman posture formed by the superposition of the light of the ocean and Trigaya itself. In addition, there is another posture that is parallel to it, which is transformed with the light of the earth. These two postures are parallel to each other, but they cannot be regarded as the same entity. In other words, after Zero has used up one transformation posture, the other transformation posture will not be trapped by the 3-minute time limit. The red light on Zero's right wrist became brighter and brighter, and the black and gold wristband could be vaguely seen taking shape. Feeling the comfort of being bathed in the red light and the satisfaction of the continuous surge of power in his body, Jello couldn't help laughing. At the same time, Huranos was dumbfounded. Didn't they say that he couldn't become huge? What's going on? Ha 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 ha, he actually found a loophole. What a smart kid. The clown who was observing the battle by some means also laughed. At this time, the red light turned into a sharp arrow and shot straight into the sky. Even the darkness summoned by the Huranos was broken by it. Strands of light fell on the earth, and the red light that pierced the sky turned into a meteor and fell. In an instant, the earth trembled, and the Huranos almost lost his balance. Tens of thousands of tons of soil and gravel flew into the sky, covering the figure of the red giant. When the dust settled, the red giant slowly stood up and posed a fighting posture towards the Huranos. The darkness that was pierced by the red light column before did not recover, which allowed some sunlight to fall on him, adding a little tranquility to him. Compared with the Ocean Hero, Trigaya, with the addition of the light of the earth, became a bit stronger, and the originally blue body turned red. The sacred armor of the oath on his body also became a type more suitable for close combat, which can better protect Trigaya. The nexus weapons on both arms also changed. The elbow blades disappeared and extended to the back of the hands and 5 fingers, turning into a pair of gloves. The name of this posture is Ultraman Trigaya Earth Power. Yeah. Trigaya in the form of Earth Power roared. Compared with the more ethereal and high-pitched roar of the Ocean Hero, the roar of the Earth Power is lower. Roar. Huranos roared in confusion. Huranos, who had been thinking of bullying the weak, was suddenly confused. Why can you grow huge twice, while we have to grow huge carefully? This is not fair. But even if Huranos was puzzled, it was useless. Facing the enemy as big as a mountain, he could only be forced to attack. He still used the old trick of hiding his figure, hiding in the darkness, and eliminating his voice, so that others could not catch his trace. The darkness that had spread out before was also partially taken back by Theranos, and more dark power returned to his body, which gave Theranos more power to control. In the darkness, Theranos, who could tear up the fighter group just by moving, moved at high speed. His sharp claws were like the sickle of the god of death, and the wind he raised when swinging could overturn the city blocks. Facing this elusive enemy, Trigaya had another way of fighting. The next moment, a dull bang sound appeared, and Theranos pierced Trigaya's back with one claw. But no matter how hard Theranos tried, his claws could not penetrate even a micron. There was no spark, and no millimeter of scratches were left. Obviously, Theranos' claws could cut diamonds without any problem, but when he faced the holy armor of the oath, he could not cause even 1/10,000th of the damage. This is the terrifying defense of the holy armor of the Covenant, the god of earth. The holy armor of the Covenant is a divine weapon given by Noah. In addition to its own top-level defense, it also has the ability to change with the changes in Trigger's form. When the Ocean Warrior appears, the holy armor of the Covenant, the god of the sea, will have the effects of energy amplification and storage, and when the Earth god appears, the defense of the holy armor of the Covenant, the god of Earth, will be increased to a very terrifying level. Feeling the power behind him that was lighter than a tickle, Trigger slowly turned his head and his white eyes fell on Hieronymus. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Seeing the enemy's eyes on him, Hieronymus suddenly stepped back and disappeared into the darkness again. Then, Hieronymus launched several more attacks, but they were all blocked by the holy armor of the Covenant, the god of Earth. In 10 seconds, Hieronymus launched no less than 1,000 attacks, but he couldn't even make Trigger move half a point. I can't aim at that armor anymore. Hieronymus realized this and immediately turned around to attack the part of Trigger's body that was not covered by the holy armor of the oath. A black light streaked towards Trigger's thigh, but when the black light fell, Trigger's thigh was as if nothing had happened. Then, Trigger looked at Hieronymus, and those white eyes seemed to be saying, "Didn't you eat? Try harder." It was very provocative. Hieronymus, who received the provocative message, did not dare to step forward, because he felt that no matter what he did, he could not hurt the other party. At this time, Trigger cast another gaze towards Hieronymus. "Since you don't come over, then I will go over." Then, Trigger took a step, and every time he took a step, the earth would tremble. In Hieronymus' blood-red eyes, the one standing in front of him was not a red giant, but an insurmountable mountain. Theranos wanted to run, but it was too late. Trigger raised his right arm, which was full of explosive power. A layer of red light appeared on its surface. Then he gathered his strength and swung it forward. Boom! There was a burst of sound in the air, and a huge red fist shadow shot towards Theranos, landing on Theranos accurately. Theranos, who was hit by this punch, felt that half of his life was taken away. His huge body could not help but fall backwards and landed on the abandoned factory building, crushing the entire building into powder. It was true that Theranos was half dead, but he was not completely dead. A battle can only be declared over when one side falls completely. Chapter Earth God destroys Blood Demon. Earth not standing up again. Hieronymus seemed to be stimulated by his bloodiness, and the darkness covering the sky was completely absorbed by him. There was a blood tank organ on Hieronymus' body, which stored the blood collected by his vampire followers, and the blood was disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The darkness and blood became nutrients for Hieronymus to become stronger. Even when the darkness disappeared and the sunlight shone directly on Hieronymus, he didn't care at all. Sizzle, sizzle, the sunlight fell on Hieronymus, and there was a sound of barbecue, and a burnt smell appeared in the air. But Hieronymus, who had greatly increased his strength, didn't care about these. At this time, he just wanted to tear the enemy in front of him to pieces. Swish! Knowing that hiding his tracks was useless, Hieronymus launched an attack openly. Compared with when he was hiding in the darkness, Hieronymus' speed at this moment was at least nearly twice as fast. But, bang, it was still a muffled sound. The claw attack of Hieronymus had no chance of shaking Trigger at all. However, Trigger restrained Hieronymus' right claw with his backhand, and then used 5 fingers to force and tightly restrained its movement. The fingers covered with armor directly pierced into the Hieronymus' skin and touched the Hieronymus' bones. The sound of bone cracking sounded in Hieronymus' ears. Knowing that there was no way to escape, Hieronymus made a very correct choice, to escape by cutting off his arm. Bang! The right claw of Hieronymus exploded under Trigger's eyes, and countless flesh and blood tissues flew all over the sky. For a powerful creature like Hieronymus, even a drop of blood has great power. Some of that flesh and blood did not fall on Trigger, but fell on the surrounding ground. Any plant that came into contact with this flesh and blood would be corroded by the power in it and turned into a very demonic evil creature. Even a blade of grass, after coming into contact with the flesh of Theranos, will become as sharp as a handsaw, and will contain poison. Trigger naturally noticed this scene. It seems that the dismemberment method cannot be used. To deal with such an enemy, it is necessary to crush the bones and ash. After deciding on the fighting method, Trigger no longer held back and began to attack actively. A layer of red flame appeared on Trigger's body, evaporating the flesh of Theranos that fell on him. These flesh and blood could not erode the giant of light that could cover the earth, but for Trigger, this behavior was a bit disgusting. The power of the Earth God is very comprehensive, not a bulky single muscle enhancement, which will not reduce the original speed. The next moment, Trigger came in front of Theranos. Facing the greatly increased power of Theranos, he did not even try a single move, but directly punched hard. Without any skills or fancy tricks, Trigger punched, retracted, and retracted his fists cleanly. That was the initial move that any fighter would learn when he first got started, but in Trigger's hands, it had an unimaginable terrifying power. The shadows of his fists were denser than a rainstorm, and the impact of each punch could smash the strongest warship of mankind like a toy, and its high temperature was as hot as the surface of the sun. Under this attack, the flesh and blood of Theranos would be completely evaporated before it splashed out, and thus could not cause any other effects. As the only victim, Theranos could only feel holes appearing in his body one after another. A few seconds later, Trigger retracted his fists and stood up, but Theranos standing in front of him had become as tattered as a fishing net, and it seemed that it was difficult for him to even stand. Then he threw a telekinetic binding to Theranos, and after making sure that Theranos had no way to escape, Trigger flew into the sky. After flying to a place 300 meters above the ground, Trigger opened his hands, and a red light condensed between his hands. A super high-pressure red light ball condensed in his palm. If someone could observe the red light ball carefully at this time, they would find that the red light ball was still undergoing a continuous nuclear fusion reaction, and it was as hot as a miniature star. Feeling the burning spirit, Jello couldn't help but shout out the name of this move. Fiery Sun, Flash Bomb. At this moment, in the sky, in the eyes of Theranos, two suns appeared side by side, and one of them was still falling towards him. Facing Trigger's Fiery Sun Flash Bomb, Theranos had no chance to avoid it, and could only watch the Fiery Sun Flash Bomb devour his body. After completely engulfing Theranos, the Fiery Sun Flash Bomb spread to the surroundings, but the Fiery Sun Flash Bomb with super high temperature and super high pressure did not cause any damage to the surrounding environment, and even cleared the pollution caused by Theranos in the previous battle. After a few breaths, Theranos' body was completely devoured by the Sun Flash Bomb. Not only his body, but also that concept fragments that were the basis of his existence were completely shattered. In other words, there'll never be a blood-sucking monster like Theranos again. After dealing with Theranos, Trigger disappeared into the horizon. And Jello also reappeared at the ruined factory. He came to Carol Ferris, who was protected by the Eclipse House armor, and took the ring off her finger. Under normal circumstances, the lantern ring cannot be taken off by outsiders, but if the wearer of the lantern ring is distracted or the corresponding emotions are weakened, the lantern ring will become easy to take off. For example, Carol Ferris was knocked unconscious by Jello with a rocket hammer. This is the first time I have taken off a ring for a woman. Jello said to himself as he walked to Carol and helped her take off the purple lantern ring. As soon as it left the wearer, the purple lantern ring wanted to find Carol again. After all, she was the closest suitable person. But how could Jello let the purple lantern ring do what it wanted? You'd better stay with me. Zero smiled evilly and used telekinesis to trap the purple lantern ring, and opened the broken watch at a very fast speed, and put this magical idealistic creation into it. There is a saying that the technology of the Earthlings is all about stealing, while the technology of the Ultraman is all about borrowing. So Zero planned to borrow the purple lantern ring for research first, and then return it after a while. After dealing with Theranos, Zero sent a message to the Justice League, indicating that the matter was over, and added the message of let Green Lantern come back. At this time, in a special space somewhere, the Joker was taking law to observe Zero's condition. And Zero also looked up as if he had noticed something, and gave a look to the peeper in the dark. Do you dare to bet that I can only become giant twice? The Joker read the meaning of this look. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.